That was the week that was woke, but I feel as though something else is going on in the world that's really much more scary. But look, if we all kind of calm and I don't know, get through this, we might be able to face whatever else is going on. Welcome everybody to Friday. It seems a bit more stressful this week, doesn't it? With what's going on. That was the week that was woke, our weekly roundup. So welcome one and all to the weekly wrap of what broke in the world of woke. And we are live. I'm back from Spain. So share your views, send us topics. Let's unwind as we rewind on the week that was woke together. Yeah. And today is another whopper of a show. My God, is it? And I promised this morning from the detox, didn't I? I said, there's a lot of Doctor Who content tonight. There were articles and everything. And so there's a lot of that. But there's a lot of other woke stuff as well, just to kind of get your taste and the whole breadth of it all. Okay, so here's the show 6 of me and Rachel, and you'll see her on her platform and mine beaming at the same time. That was the week that was woke. We've also got, tune in on my Wednesday by Generates. We were talking about the crisis of confidence in Doctor Who. Jodie blaming the fans, or was she? Rachel's got some interesting things to say, and the Disney dilemma about what the hell is going on. Now, there's your lead up before I bring Rachel, the queen of the woke, on. What will be the wokest of the week? Calls for Doctor Who to be more woke? Or was it always woke? Snow White, an offensive puppy advert, BBC and drag queens. There's a whole load of stuff we will be discussing. So, of course, the best thing to do is not mess about. Get my co-interrogator of the woke on, the queen of the woke, who has a greater sense of decorum and regality than this Boro bloke with his working class worldview. So, as I always say, let's get her on. She's going to chat about it, not shout about it.
Hi, everyone. Royalty has entered. Hello, everyone.
That's it. There's no red carpet. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
So I've mentioned Jodie twice, but later tonight you've got your comments to make. So yes,
I do. Yeah. This is the Jodie one is the only one that I know about. Actually, what we're covering. So everything tonight is going to be a complete surprise to me. I'm sure I've read some of it already, though.
Yeah, you know me. Even if when I was on a Spanish beach, if I see something, I'm going, oh.
Oh yeah, the puppets got up to mischief, didn't they?
The Who pets. Well, he broke his nail and he had to regenerate.
Exactly.
So we'll get moving. There's some tasty ones tonight, Rachel. But when am I going to say anything different?
Exactly. Look at that list.
Oh, there's some beauties. So everybody hang around for the Doctor Who element. There's a good component. It's based on an article or two. It's not just me waffling. So I suppose we better get going because there's plenty to discuss. So that was the week that was woke. Show 6, February the 28th. Buckle in, everybody. Here we go.
Here we go. It's going to be a lovely ride.
Rachel, I'm going to start with language. The power of language and the woke. Look at this from Wisconsin, their budget recommendations, and underneath you've got word previously used was wife or husband, and now it's spouse. Well, that's all right. But mother is now inseminated person.
Oh, how insulting!
It's how are people thinking that's great, Rachel? That is just gross. It's horrible. It's objectifying. It's
labeling people who might not necessarily want to be labeled. If you really are going down that route, why can't you just actually ask said mother? Or let them tell you if you really want to go down that route, but
what's wrong with mother and father? What's wrong with pregnant woman? What is wrong with it?
Exactly. Nothing wrong with it.
Obviously, man, husband, and father doesn't have to change. It's always the women, isn't it, who have to?
Always, yeah. You see, if you actually go in and you're having to constantly think all the time about not slipping up, you're going to do it. You're going to slip up.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm having been an English teacher, I'm not happy about people controlling my language. But it continues, Rachel. This is just a taster for 10. This is from America, where of course they've changed their rules now under Trump. More of which later.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult day in America regarding Trump and Zelensky. But basically, you can see there a woman is an adult human male, a female. Sorry.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm
That's
rearranging
it. That's
biology.
it. Stream down.
Yes, Brendan's executive orders are. um, so yeah, you can see. I think a lot of people would say, yeah, that's as it should be. That list makes a lot more sense than the Wisconsin one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're joining who was it recently? Network Rail? Was it Network Rail? I can't remember. It
Yeah,
was
well,
now.
there was
Yeah,
that
Network
one.
Rail. Yeah. Mm.
Do you want another tasty one on
Oh,
language then?
please
This
do.
is from Amnesty International because, as you know, they're more bothered about people in prison and people struggling and incarcerated. But suddenly, they're very bothered about pronouns.
Since when did they care?
Oh, do you think? I think if I'm incarcerated as a political prisoner, that's not the first thing on the agenda.
No.
So there you go. The one on the right shows you it most. Most, but not all men use the pronouns he, him, or his.
Yes.
Likewise, most, but not all women use the pronoun she, her, or hers. God,
Yeah.
I feel as though it's an English lesson. But gender neutral pronouns include terms such as, I mean,
They, them,
honestly,
themselves, theirs.
why
Oof.
are they wasting time, a meeting, a sheet on this sort of stuff? You know, this is when I worry about things like charities and that and NHS because people are going, the money should be going to the front line.
Yeah. Yeah. Where it should be used. You're putting all the money in the wrong place. I
So yeah,
hate it.
I just thought to start on the language, and here's a one
Yeah.
final one on language because remember, language is important, folks. Language controls how we think. Language controls how we behave. It's very sinister. Go back to 1984, and if you see this one, this is from Melbourne, Rachel,
Oh,
Melbourne radio station.
right.
Now, do you feel like someone is using the wrong bathroom?
Oh,
Well, please don't stare at them. Please don't challenge them. Don't insult them. I mean, if they're in the wrong toilets, whoa.
yeah.
I
Well, if
mean,
they're in
Rachel,
the wrong toilet, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's ridiculous.
it's
How
shocking,
do
isn't
they
it?
get away with that? This is
Well,
Melbourne, yeah?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, don't go to Melbourne.
So this is shocking, isn't it? So if you think so, it's not going to be me who feels like this. It'll be you, Rachel, won't it? Because
Mm.
we're only talking about women's spaces, really, aren't we?
Well
So
well, yeah, because if you're looking at, like, who passes better in the terms of transitioning, it's gotta be, female to male, right? For
yeah.
sure. Definitely not the other way round. You can clock someone just like that. It can be very easy to do so.
So
Mm.
let's imagine I'm declaring I'm trans. I go into a woman's bathroom and you're in there.
Yeah.
You can clock that I'm one of the worst looking women ever and you are
Yep,
feeling uncomfortable.
yep,
I
immediately.
don't you better not stare at me. Don't challenge me. Don't insult me. I mean insult me. Do not purposely make me feel uncomfortable, but you feel uncomfortable because you think somebody's in the wrong bathroom. But
Yeah.
don't make
That's okay.
don't make me feel uncomfortable. I would like my privacy respected, my identity respected, if you don't mind, Rachel.
Mhm.
Will you just get on with your day? Carry on with your day.
No,
I mean,
I think I would have something to say. More than just something to say, actually. You would have to be, like, fooling me, like, altogether. You would have to work really, really hard in order to make yourself look like a woman, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, I feel so. It, I just don't know why we're going down this road. I mean, it's only women really who are going to be feeling uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and the rules are women just get over it, whereas men get on with it. It just seems so wrong.
I saw this horrible, TikTok. I cannot remember for the life of me. It was last year now, where I saw it on TikTok. I can't remember who the creator was, but it was a quote unquote trans woman, okay, trans identifying male, didn't look anything like a woman, but was in the woman's bathrooms in a stall, and this person, this biological man, has his phone streaming, and then shoves the phone underneath into the cubicle there next to them.
Yeah.
And so the woman in the other cubicle naturally, of course, shoves it back. I wouldn't have done that. I would have picked it up and flushed it down the toilet.
And it's a brave woman, though, isn't it? When you're in an uncomfortable position. So this is my starter. There's a lot of Doctor Who coming, everybody, but obviously we promised that was the week that was woke. And as Divine and Dragon, I appreciate says, like the stream, subscribe if you haven't before. I think we'll continue. So that was my language item, just to warm you up. If you didn't feel as though, this one, Rachael, this was done. This was a survey of the political worldviews of BBC radio comedians. And if you look at the list, there's only Jeff Norcott and Simon Evans who seem to be on the right at all of anybody who shows up on Radio 4, but isn't that the problem?
Yeah. Political worldviews of BBC for radio comedians. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is what I mean, whether you watch what's that one? Who do you think? Not who do you think you are? You know the one that I don't watch it now. Have I got news for you? That one.
Yeah.
You get used to the same type of panelists coming on, don't you? But you don't really see anybody who'll say Brexit was a good idea, or somebody who says anything.
No, not really.
No. And this,
not really.
And this plays in, Rachael, too. I know you've talked about it on your channel, and I've just kind of noticed it, which is David Tennant and BAFTAs, and it's trendy to slag off Trump, but it's not trendy to slag off Putin. It's fascinating.
It's really fascinating. I was just reading the list.
Yeah,
on the left there. That is a lot. There's some that I'm surprised there are on the left and not perhaps like more central, like Jonathan Pye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's certainly not balanced though, is it?
No. But Jonathan Pye, I swear that's his like act name. Yeah. I swear he's got another name.
But we talk about inclusion, diversity and equity, when we're told all these things, and that's why Ncuti Gatwa feels so emboldened and Jodie Whittaker feels so emboldened. But the point is, when you look at just comedians on their political view, when Ncuti says, I need to see somebody like me on TV. Well, I'd like to see somebody with my political view on TV, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Do we not count?
No, we don't count, apparently. A lot of people think I'm totally right on the right. I'm not. I'm like much more central than that,
I think both of us are much more just common sense and actually, call it somewhere in the center to right. In my case, I can only speak for me, but I think it's more common sense, and I try and see the argument rather than just say I'm tribal.
It's interesting though that it presents such a big bias. I reckon the BBC definitely leans more sort of left anyway, I think.
Yeah, it's always confusing because the BBC is very establishment, and some people think establishment equals conservative, but it depends, doesn't it? Because at the moment it's trendy to be, it's trendy for those lot to be very on the left, so of course it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Hence why David Tennant felt he could say what he wanted, just like these people think.
The thing is with that, then it creates issue because you have no pushback, and you have no debate, and it's very boring and not very fun.
Well, it's just they'll do their jokes about the Tory party, the Conservatives, but will they joke about Keir Starmer as much?
I can't see it, because. Well, I don't know. Actually, they might do because he's not exactly what I would call popular at the moment, is he? So they might do.
Well, here's what somebody has done: an assessment of the comedians on Radio 4 on the BBC. But then on this comedy front, on our World of Woke, you have the Scottish Labour leader, politician, who said that. Yeah, he said Billy Connolly is an outdated, vulgar, and offensive comedian.
Have we got any Scots that are joining us who think otherwise tonight? Maybe.
You see,
I don't. I don't think he's outdated.
No,
Um,
he's got older because
it
that's
yeah.
life.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Vulgar, well, he's always had that sense of vulgarity in his comedy, but that's what makes it funny. Is he offensive? Only if you take the offense.
And that's why I've put Ricky Gervais's comment on
Mm,
the right. I see offence as the collateral damage of free speech. I hate the thought of a person's ideas being modified or even hushed because someone somewhere might not like to hear them.
exactly. But he's absolutely right. You know, whether you like Ricky Gervais or not, that's true. That's true.
But so you join all the dots here, and one minute you've got all the people who seem to be on the left of politics in comedy who are getting time on TV,
Mm,
and then you get politicians on the left then saying they're finding people who are vulgar and offensive, and I dare say the next thing is to say they need to be cancelled or
yeah.
shunted away.
Comedians are heavily policed at the moment
Yeah.
anyway, so and I kind of feel sorry for them because that means then they can't really do their job properly, you know, without sort of like treading around on tiptoes. And actually, yeah, Lee Smith is right. Billy Connolly is actually ill at the moment. Well, he's
Yes.
got is it Alzheimer's? I want to say he's got
Parkinson's or something, is it? It's yeah,
Parkinson's,
I
something
think it
like that.
is. I
I
don't
can't
want
remember off the top of my
yeah,
head.
I don't want to get it wrong, but
So
yeah, it's a low blow.
you know, yeah, and talk about kicking a man whilst he's
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
You know, that's not fair.
no. Claude, good to see you, Michael. One form of entertainment which has really suffered in recent years by the woke community is comedy. As Rachel was saying, I'm a huge fan of comedy, but I can't find much out there on terrestrial TV. You end
Mm,
up having to go on Netflix and finding you one comedian that you like who's
yeah.
on there.
Or buy it on DVD. How, like, not modern am I? Or
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
it on DVD
Or YouTube.
or
YouTube.
YouTube it.
Garbage. He is a comedian. You choose to pay to go to see him. It's a choice. You don't cancel him or anyone ever. I agree. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be a democracy. We're
And he's
supposed
a
to be.
fantastic actor as well, actually.
Yes,
I
Mrs.
find him
Brown's boy.
absolutely
Out.
brilliant.
I said Mrs. Brown's boys. You know what I mean. I did not.
Not Mrs. Brown's
It's not
Boys.
Mrs. Brown's boy.
Mrs. Brown's Boys is good.
But
I
it was.
know it's kind of seen its better days, so I'm trying to get something.
What
I've
was
just
the
knocked my
movie
light off.
with Jodie Dench and Billy Connolly? It was Mrs. Brown, wasn't it? Miss.
No. So I'm just trying to pick something up.
I've forgotten the name now.
Yeah.
Um, help us out in the thread, everybody. Heather, comedians are the first to have their jobs affected by free speech being restricted. Heather, last week's show, as in 2 weeks ago, remember when I showed you the Ramadan thing and there were certain speakers who were talking about gross stuff and saying it can be excused if you pray. And then somebody like Chubby Brown from Middlesbrough can be cancelled in so many theatres across the country. And you're going, has somebody got this wrong? You can like or hate a comedian, but they should still be allowed to be doing their performances. If you don't like the comedian, Rachel, you just
Mm.
wouldn't go.
Oh, exactly. Why would you? Why would
But
you go?
cancelling people is the dangerous one. It's a bit like you can't say woman anymore. You can't say,
No,
you know.
no. I'm just gonna go and pick up the room light a minute. It kind of toppled.
Okay,
One sec.
while that happens, I'll just check on the thread. Mr. Squinty Mint, I think the BBC is split between political journalism, which is right wing, and its entertainment departments, which are more centrist progressive. It hasn't been left wing since Loach and Bleasdale. I know what you mean. Oh yes, Mrs. Brown says garbage. My brain's not working today. Since I got back from the holiday, it's all gone. It's not working. It's not working. So there you go. A bit on the comedy front.
Yeah.
Doctor Who still to come,
Well,
and
I
of
think
course,
that looks better.
I mean, sadly, it's all kicked off in the White House today between a very important meeting between Zelensky and Trump, which I think is, I think it's, I'll say disappointing to be euphemistic, but oh my God. But yesterday, the British Prime Minister was there. And again, I found it uncomfortable in the way that it was the American president who said, I've got the bust of Churchill back in the Oval Office. And our British Prime Minister was saying, oh, yes, very good, very good. But they've been getting rid of them all. They've been taking them
I
down.
know, it's hypocrisy.
Total
Yeah.
hypocrisy. And
Terrible. They shouldn't do that. Shouldn't take it down.
well, obviously, Churchill is obviously not in for the progressives.
No, he's not. I mean, they did try to tear down his statue or whatever it was they were doing during protests in London, uh, in Parliament Square, I think it was.
Did you see Yvette Cooper's replaced Nelson?
No.
There's an I'll send you the picture later. That
Oh, okay.
it's been put up with her in profile, and she has replaced Nelson. I
Really?
mean, you know, we can't stop a dinghy crossing the channel, but she's Nelson now. I tell you what.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, and yeah, as Talon Wayne Cheyenne says here, Yvette Cooper's done the same thing. Took down Churchill and put one of herself up. Well, it was actually Nelson. God. Dalekzilla. I live in a country where the idiots running around screaming woke and DI are the same ones embracing fascism and are threatening to plunge the country into another civil war. It does get very angry and toxic. I do agree with you. It gets very silly and it gets out of control. Now, what about this one, Rachel? I before we get to the Doctor Who ones, police sorry for puppy adverts that upset them a Muslim population, because the actual advert just basically a police force has apologized to Muslims after a crime fighting campaign featuring a puppy sparked an outcry. This picture of Rebel, a 29-week-old black Alsatian, featured on postcards promoting a new non-emergency phone number. But the choice of the image, which shows Rebel sitting in a police officer's hat, triggered anger because Islamic tradition warns Muslims against contact with dogs because they are seen as impure.
Oh,
And
for goodness sake. Sorry.
but there was even more. I'm having to edit, otherwise this show would go on for 5 hours, Rachel. There's other ones like in Manchester where, you know, the halal meat, and there's so many things where the Five Guys, remember, they're pulling back.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I've just
I
shown,
saw that.
but look at the Ricky Gervais, and I quite think, you know, when he says, you know, offence should be allowed. I'm sorry, but if an advert offends somebody, you've got to go, well, this is Western culture. They love their dogs. It's nothing against me. It's just their culture. I mean, why are we
See,
suddenly...
it's so confusing because, you know, you just come in to our country and expect it to be done your way.
Yeah, well,
It's not.
we keep getting told about equity,
Yeah.
inclusion, respect, and yet I have to say the word compromise isn't happening. Now,
No,
I
it's
think,
not. It's
and
definitely not.
yeah, so I mean, it. I'm picking on what looks like a silly one, but why would anyone take offence in Britain at a puppy advert on helping you with a police telephone number? It seems to be people are getting triggered just because they're getting triggered, and they're not seeing the perspective or the context.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. That's what it is, you know. Sorry, but this is the way we roll in this country, and we just can't conform and bend down to everyone.
Yeah. Now I'll let you go because I know you've talked about this already, so I
Ugh.
know this will be a fun one for you. Just before, we're not quite Doctor Who yet, but we had the BAFTAs and blah blah blah. Go on, I'll give you a shoe in there for Rachel on your opinion.
Ugh. Oh, why? Why? This was not necessary. So just to be clear, the BAFTAs used the reason, because apparently there was more jokes like aimed towards Trump, is that they obviously are a few minutes ahead, so they have to edit out as much as, you know, edit as when they can. Obviously, it's fine. But the reason why other jokes were edited out was because of time constraints. Yeah, pull the other one. They were offensive, whatever it was. Well, not offensive, sorry. They were jibes. They weren't
Yeah,
jokes, they were jibes,
yeah.
and that was the problem. Yes, and David Tennant went off on one on the President of the United States,
Because that seems to be acceptable to do.
which is not acceptable to do. If it's a double standard.
Well, Trump has got the freshest mandate out of most Western politicians.
Yeah.
Putin has not been elected in any form of an election that makes any
No.
sense. But David Tennant decided that the best target was the Western leader with the freshest electoral mandate. Wow. I'm picking
I
on his
know.
hairdo, picking on his hairdo.
I know.
You can't fat shame, but a man who's losing a bit of hair and wants to do something with it, let's take the mick out of that. Look, whether you like somebody or not, I thought fat shaming was bad. I thought,
And I find it interesting that it doesn't target any politician that's on the left. So
yeah,
he didn't say anything about Biden or Kamala, as far as I'm aware. He certainly didn't say anything about our dear Starmer. But it's okay to do the others, like Kemi Badenoch last year,
Yeah.
saying that some people, and this is talking about the public, being on the wrong side of history. That was also last year. And then this year, Trump.
It's a bit like Carol Vorderman. She's gone very quiet suddenly.
Has she now? I haven't paid much attention to Carol Vorderman the last.
Yeah, well, she was all very keen on getting the Labour Party in, but she's gone very quiet since they've been letting people down with what they've said since.
You know what? Politicians should politicians, and Carol Vorderman should stick to maths and presenting.
Yeah, and as Jeremy says here, David Tennant said he was not going to be political at the BAFTAs.
He
So
did,
instead, he's
yep.
picked on the Western leader he doesn't like and slagged off his hair
Yep.
as a joke. But is Putin a looker? I mean, are we supposed to just give him a free ride? I mean, it seemed to be the White House was giving Putin a free ride today as well, unfortunately. John Steed, David Tennant has lost the plot. He needs to spend time in the real world and not in his reality. It's called hubris. They always end up, it's a bit like RTD. They end up thinking they are almost untouchable.
They do. They do. And then they put one toe out of line. Oh, you're cancelled.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, what about this person who was nearly cancelled for complaining about a Labour councillor? The Thought Police in Manchester. You saw that one, did you, this week, Rachel?
I saw something about the Thought Police. I don't know the full details. Go on, hit me.
Yeah, basically, in that WhatsApp group, there were those Labour MPs and politicians behind the scenes in Manchester area who were saying very bad things about old people and wishing they were dead and all the rest of it because they didn't vote with them. And of course, one of the people on Facebook, a grandma, said she said these people should be sacked. She just said this is wrong. She just criticised them. It wasn't even rude. And the Thought Police arrived. The Manchester police came to the door and told her that there'd been a complaint about her. Now, is that supposed to intimidate or what?
And did she? Was it? I think I might have heard this story. I think it was to intimidate. Yeah, I think I have. But did she say, are you going to arrest me or something like that? Was that what she asked? Was she
I
in
don't
trouble?
know. I
And
mean,
they were just like, no, because there was nothing they could do about it.
why
You
does
see, instead of spending money on the Thought Police, actually put the money where you actually need it.
a burglary? If I had a
Like
burglary,
keeping her home.
well, yeah. Or if there's a crime or a burglary, will the police come to the door? Those are two highly paid detectives who came to say somebody's complained about you, but it's not a crime. Therefore, they've just wasted their detective time.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, can you imagine if you watched an episode of Vera where Vera just went around people's houses saying, apparently somebody didn't like your text? God, that'd be exciting, Vera.
It would be enthralling. It'd be boring as anything.
Ugh.
Honestly, this Thought Police, stuff, it just needs to stop. It's ridiculous.
You are starting to think.
This law. Go on.
No, you just start to think who's the arbiter of where the common sense comes in, because that we in Manchester they've got a police commissioner who will have they decide what the targets are. I mean, they obviously think time is well spent.
Yeah, this law was introduced to protect children online, and they've taken it, run with it, and made it worse.
They have. And I'm not helping tonight with Rachel. With every time my slide changes, you'll be going, where's the common sense? So here's one of our friends, Sam Smith. And Sam Smith says they're bored of being non-binary, and now he wants to identify as an oyster.
Great.
Sam
Knock
Smith
yourself out.
Yeah, he's reportedly.
Go for it.
Now, I don't think you're single anymore. Sam Smith is reportedly self-partnered, which means that they are not single, but they are actually in a relationship with themselves. Why is language getting so twisted in nonsense logic?
I didn't know self-partnered was a thing.
I don't think it will be. I mean, I certainly wouldn't walk around. I mean, I was closeted for years. I don't think I'd ever dare go around saying I'm self-partnered. It just sounds wrong.
No.
I'm in love with myself. I mean, it just
Well,
doesn't sound right.
no, it doesn't sound right. I mean, that's good that you love yourself, but, you know,
My concern is, I
what?
just think, where are
Oh,
we going with this? Sam Smith,
it's so confusing. It is confusing.
I,
It's
but this is when it gets into the law, when people saying you should be allowed to self-certify who you are, and yeah, some of it I understand where they're trying to be logical, but if you allow everybody to self-certify, you end up with stuff like this where people are going, this is making no sense to me.
mm, no, this doesn't make any sense to me. And, like, Sam's saying what he wants to identify it as an oyster? So
I mean,
what would
no,
your pronouns be? I mean, get your close personal friends to
maybe
actually refer to
solitary
you
is
as
an
an
oyster.
oyster.
I think it's a quote from Christmas Carol, isn't it? Solitary is an oyster. So basically, I'm solitary with myself. I really don't know. I
I
mean,
don't know either.
it's just every week when I'm thinking, are there any woke stories out there, Rachel? Honestly, they're just getting thrown at me. Um,
When you start looking for them, they come at you
oh
like
yeah,
that.
and folks, we haven't even got to Doctor Who. Oh my God. Over the Overseer, there are a lot of high profile lunatics declaring their departure from the USA. Perhaps we could come up with an exchange scheme with UK residents. Britain is an absolute haven for these people.
Yes, we know
Ellen,
we've got Ellen DeGeneres at the
yeah,
moment,
yeah,
and
she's.
Portia.
So I'm not making anyone happy with this news at the moment, am I? Let's see if I can make this any better. I'll turn to the BBC next.
Okay.
Here we go. BBC hails drag queens as inspirational mums on CBeebies site. I mean,
But they're drag queens.
and this is
Drag
it.
drag queens take their makeup off at the end of the day, and they're back to being a man.
Well, the special now. Children's website Lord's transgender activists alongside Michelle Obama and Holly Willoughby for International Women's Day.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then you've got the drag queen story time for toddlers in Fintry Community Library in Dundee
No,
today.
that shouldn't be happening. Keep them away from children.
And so, I mean, it hit Doctor Who, didn't we? We had Jinx Monsoon.
Yep.
And everybody was, some people saying, I don't know why you're making a big fuss of this. It's the big LGBTQ plus 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 plus. But you're going, I know, but drag queen is a man, and I don't think not every drag queen even has to be gay.
No,
Um,
no, of course not, no.
no. So the whole point is, I mean, Barry Humphries wasn't,
No, he wasn't.
and was a very good. I mean, I don't think he'd call him a drag queen. He was good comedy, but
But he was always adamant that Dame Edna was that it was a drag act.
yeah.
It was an act, and when he took that makeup off, he was back to being Barry Humphries.
And I think where drag queens and children gets really, I think it does get problematic, as you were just indicating there,
Mm,
is the way they're dressed. They don't dress dowdy. They don't have a little cardigan on like a gran or something.
mm.
They dress to accentuate what they think are feminine
It
features.
it would yeah, it would that's true, actually. It would make you think, like, in this day and age, if we still have people like Paul O'Grady, if we still have people like Danny LaRue, what would they say of it, of drag queens going and doing this type of thing in front of children? I mean, I know we get the panto dame,
Yeah, yeah.
and, that is risque to say the least, but it should just stop at that, really. But it
It's
just makes you wonder what on earth they would say.
But it's just that I can't even imagine the dynamics of how you sit. So are the children in story time sat on the mat and they're looking up at this speaker? But look at what they wear. I mean, they're going to have to be very
Yeah,
careful with their how they sit.
yeah,
The other thing is, normally it is the older relatives who do the stories with the kids,
yeah.
and it's a nice cozy little thing. Like I said, it used to be the dinner nannies after in the afternoon, and they weren't dressed in any way. I wouldn't even know if they were women, if you get my gist. They'll just sit with you and they follow you through with your
Mm,
reading. This is kind of I would really notice I was next to somebody looking larger than life.
mm. Oh, yeah, Yeah. I think back to when I was a child, I wouldn't have been able to watch anything that had Lily Savage in it, Paulo Grady, for those of you who don't know, until I was a lot older. And by the time, I think I was probably about 12, and I think, like, by the time I got to 12, she was, well, Paul was getting ready really to retire the act,
Yeah.
really, at that point. So,
But the other thing
but
is,
it
I mean,
was she was still very moderated.
and drag queens, as a lot of people are saying, it's normally seen as adult entertainment, risque entertainment. Your life is in your hands. I've never walked into a gay bar when there's a drag queen on and they're in mid-act, because they would have your life. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it's open
They're
season.
savage. They're savage,
Yeah. And
but in the
so
nicest possible way.
so these people who are savage and are hopefully comedic in their bullying and picking on people in an adult space are suddenly going to be reading to kiddies, and they won't, what, they'll suddenly just moderate everything and never make a mistake. I even have this with sometimes with panelists when they swear a lot and you're thinking, I swear a lot less on these things because for 30 years I didn't swear in a classroom. You get
Mm,
used to it.
yeah.
And you think, yeah, some people can't switch it.
No, no.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm the ex-English teacher. My jury's out big time on this one about how this helps kids read. Um,
I'm dead set against it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Still on the BBC because I mean, we're not doing the Hamas one today because it was big enough. We'll probably save that for next week where they've put their hands up as a big mistake, that documentary. But the other thing on the BBC is this one. I mean, the drag queens on CBBS, and now we've got couple to thruple, how polyamory is becoming the new normal. According to research, 51% of adults under 30 in the US think that open marriage is acceptable. The BBC are discussing stuff like this on various websites. It's as if they are enjoying the sleaze factor or the kink factor or the fetish factor, and they're not actually just thinking of the mainstream audience.
No, of course not. And this is what gets them their brownie points, isn't it, at the moment?
Because isn't it funny, Rachel? It's progressive gets
Mhm.
blurred with risque or a bit weird.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I weirdly, I saw something today that made me go, "Huh? Why? Just why?" Um, and actually, it was nothing to do with this particular article. I was on YouTube and randomly, do you know the book series Horrible Histories?
Yeah,
Right. Well, that was a TV show years ago, and I think they've brought it back recently. And now, normally, I wouldn't click on it, but I was looking at it. It's talking about the Tudors, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why do we have an Indian Tudor? And why do we have a black Tudor? And I
yeah,
clicked on it and I watched it, and it was a black Princess Mary before she became Queen Mary, and sorry, an Indian Princess Mary before she became Queen Mary, excuse me, and it was a black Queen Catherine Parr, and I'm like,
yes.
yeah, okay. Why? They wouldn't have been of that status back then.
And
It's
why?
facts.
And well, it's Isaac Newton, isn't it? Again, with While We're
Yeah,
Younger. Why are they compromising with the culture of a country? Because I would have mutual respect that you don't do it in another country. That you depict what it was and how it
yeah,
looked.
exactly. I mean, I ain't got a problem with black people or indigenous
No,
people being in horrible histories, but if you're presenting a fun historical program like Horrible Histories, and the book series and the
yeah.
TV show is actually fun, just present it correctly. Great, you know?
That's what I mean. You've got to be accurate. It's a bit like
But it's points.
a bit like a pregnant woman
Yeah.
is a pregnant woman. You don't have to come up with this new term that's actually factually or logically crap.
Yeah.
Um,
It's literally all of this is on the screen here is brownie points.
and
This
I'm
could
sorry,
get
but
them their funding, I say that loosely,
yeah,
to
and these are
go
the
and buy
pious
more.
ones.
Mm.
These are the ones who tell us how to speak. These are the ones who tell us loads of things, and yet they don't mind being kind of a little bit more risque about sexual stuff. You're thinking, really, you're in charge of safeguarding, are you? Right.
But, their quota is very interesting. I think a lot of what their quota affects a lot of what I get in casting calls and that as well. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, he's the next one. We're getting close to the Doctor Who one. But breaking news, transgender police officers are now allowed to strip search female citizens under new guidance.
Do you know what I'm going to say if ever I have to actually have that? No, you're not touching me.
It's
You can
shocking, isn't
take me
it?
to court. I
Women
don't
don't.
care.
I don't think women have rights anymore. It feels
No,
like it.
it should be done by a female officer,
Yeah.
biological female officer, and I think that's only fair.
Remember, Rachel, earlier tonight, I had an example from Melbourne radio station where if you're uncomfortable with somebody you don't think should be in your bathroom, you have to respect them.
Yeah.
And now you've got somebody who was biologically man, trans, but it's not about you, it's about them.
But they'll use the argument of, well, if female police officers can actually do that to men, then technically we can do that as well.
Yeah, well,
That's what
yeah.
they'll use the argument. But I actually think, I don't know if this is my completely conservative side coming out here, but I actually think that female police officers shouldn't be doing that to men.
No.
I think it should work both ways. I think men should search men, women should search women.
I
That
do know
sounds
what
really weird, but
it's just,
it's just realized how odd that sounded.
and you can, and by the way, I'm not watching This Morning all the time. This was shown to me, but even
Okay.
on stuff like This Morning, NHS staff must ask men if they're pregnant. Well, we know that. I mean,
This is brilliant TikTok that I saw the other day via another channel, and it was about a this actually puts it into context now. I actually understand. Right, okay. So ask men if they have been pregnant before. Right, okay. So this trans woman had gone into the doctor's office, and and the doctor said, have you been pregnant before? Are you pregnant? And apparently they went, no, I'm a biological male. And apparently the doctor said, yeah, I could tell that, but I had to ask you.
But this is what I mean. But this is what I mean. You've got we had 2 weeks ago before I went away, we had that doctor who had a nurse in trouble, and yet he looked presented. But we have now got people who know the truth, who are scared of saying something, and so we have to play this whole charade. When everybody knows, no, you can't be pregnant because you're a man, but I have to ask you. Well, actually, is somebody in that organization going to say, this is stupid? I'm a trained doctor. We don't ask questions like that because that's stupid and it's a waste of time.
And it is a waste of time because in theory, you have to, when it comes to hospitals and medical care, you have to list your biological sex straight up. So they should know immediately what your biological sex is.
Well,
And it's offensive.
John Newton reckons we're at the end of the times of civilization. Do you know what? In joke ways, I can say it. After what happened in the White House today, I actually fear more. When we finish this show, I'm really worried about the ramifications of the meeting today between Zelensky and Trump. I found it one of the most bullying, intimidating encounters I've ever seen.
I'm going to have to catch up on that.
It was not diplomacy. And I have to say, I was saying to Rachel earlier, because she's been busy today, I've been at home. But I said, if Britain in 1940 had gone to the Oval Office, a nation having had the Blitz, bankrupt, and being treated like that, I think the nation would just drop. I had Ukrainians in my classroom, and I know some of them said they didn't know where their dads were, and this was a few years ago. And it was hard. I thought today when Trump and Vance did a kind of pincer movement on Zelensky and saying how he should say thank you more and stuff like that, and you're not showing enough respect. And I just thought the nation is on its knees. It's just this is not how you talk.
No. I think John's right. It feels like that at the moment for sure. Wow, we actually agree on something, John. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. I
but
will
not
say
time
though,
lapse.
Brendan, next time you think you might need an X-ray, right,
Yes.
go in, and if they ask you that question, "Have you ever been pregnant before?" Tell them yes and see what their reaction would be.
Hey, they'll have me locked up. This is it. They'll have me at the loony bin. They'll be going, "Excuse me, he thinks he's a woman." I mean, you can't win. You just can't win because this is a medical thing. They'll have me
Well,
sectioned.
I was going to say, well, then come back and tell us on this channel what their reaction actually was. But if they're having you sectioned, mate, I'm flying solo. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the week that was woke, and he's now broke. Honestly, she's like,
Plenty of
"Why did
time
he
to
fuck?"
change it. Oh, thanks, John.
Let's get this right. This is a core stream, and Rachel is trying to bring my stream down by getting me sectioned.
But
Oh,
by getting him sectioned, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm talking about Trump being aggressive. You're being aggressive. Look at it.
I tell you what then. I tell you what then. I'll get my dad to do something silly and get him to then go in and see what happens.
Yeah, I'll be behind your dad. Your dad does it
Yeah.
first. Well,
That's funny.
this was sent to me by Michael Herbert, and it's just a kind of a touch-up one of, education. I got out just in time, and this
Yeah.
one is Scotland's queer culture war in schools, and of course they're queering up their content. Now, I'll just list some examples. We did Shakespeare, John Steinbeck, H.G. Wells. You can imagine we had a range, and we had women writers, of course. We did Charlotte Bronte, all the rest of it. Now, is their sexuality important? I thought I was teaching the best lexis, the best vocab, the best grammar, the best imaginations written on the English language page. I didn't think I had to have this agenda where it's a bit like when you've read the Juno Dawson stuff.
Mm.
Is it quality stuff, or is it just because Juno Dawson is something seen as different to Shakespeare? It should be. I personally think it should always, if you're teaching kids, it should always be quality English.
Yeah.
And not a political writer.
No, you can't teach. You wouldn't be able to teach Juno stuff in school. It's just no.
Well, we will be mentioning.
I have nothing else to say on that.
Doctor Who and Woke will be mentioned in not long now. We're nearly there. You kind of referenced this in a different way earlier with your example of horrible histories, but here's two examples of what's this blind casting.
This is colorblind casting. Well, I don't know what's going on with the Cynthia Reed though, but the Amber Lynn one was, I'm pretty sure, colorblind casting, which is great. I hate colorblind casting. It's inherently racist.
Yeah, and it throws logic out the window. It I don't know what its purpose it's serving, because it's a bit like everybody trying to chase net zero, but by being the country, Britain tries to be the first country that does net zero, although it's an accountancy trick, and we bring in lots of carbon footprints from somewhere else, but we are pure in soul. A lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
If you're doing this blind casting, who are you kidding? And when you go to another country, as we all travel nowadays, and you watch the TV over there, you go, they're not doing blind casting at all.
No, of course they're not.
What are you doing? You're just
casting who is right for the role.
Yeah, but why is it our Western democracy is starting to do stuff like we have to compromise ourselves on every little rule, from puppy adverts to the lot? There has to be a compromise, which we see as respect, but it's being twisted and it's being exploited, that our inclination to be respectful is then used to actually to lever in something.
Well, it's rewriting history, isn't it? Essentially,
it's
the way of doing it. I mentioned the Tudors earlier. Ironically, that was just coincidence because I didn't know you were bringing this up. No. But really, you look at all the evidence that we've got of Amber Lynn, and she's not black.
And then Cynthia is going to play Jesus in a new stage show. Well, do you know what? Nobody would touch a certain religion. And yet Christianity, Jesus, God, you can do what the hell you want. Why is that allowed? Why? I mean, if you were, you know, a believing Christian, why does that God get played around with, and that's okay? It's a bit like you can take the mick out of Trump's hair, but you can't take the mick out of Putin.
Hmm.
What is this nonsense that we are allowing in this woke world? Jesus, I'm sorry, I haven't read any Bible or book or any version that said it was a woman.
No, nor have I.
So why are we
Nor have I.
doing it?
I don't mind imagery. I've said it before. I don't mind the imagery being there, but it depends, like, on how far and to what extent you actually go. That I mean, this is obviously clearly meeting a quota for sure, but also it's doing it to wind everyone up. And
Yeah.
it's a way of saying, "Well, we're doing it because we can, and
But,
there's nothing you can do."
but isn't it amazing, Rachel? And you know
Mm.
this because you've been in the industry. They think they're so brave and experimental and clever doing this, but they won't do it with Islam.
No, of course they won't.
Suddenly they're
As
cowards.
soon as they do it with something like Islam, "You're racist." That's
Yeah,
what you are. And, like, if they were to s right, Kez the Drone, right, has said something here, Mel Gibson as Martin Luther King, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
wouldn't happen in a day and age. Why? Well,
No.
first of all, Martin Luther King is black, and second of all, if you race swap him, that's racist.
Oh, they've got
Well,
an answer.
isn't race swapping Anne Boleyn racist? Isn't race swap
Totally.
Jesus racist?
They've got an answer for everything to twist us round. And
Mhm.
it's because it's not being called out enough by people in power that suddenly we are saying none of this makes any sense.
Yeah. And also I've mentioned this before on this channel. I went off on a little rant about it a few weeks ago when I was talking about Papa Acedio and the possible black Severus Snape. But what it actually does is it actually directs attention at the actress who's playing Anne Boleyn there and
Mm.
Cynthia Erivo, and it draws attention to their skin color, which if you think about it, that's not really what you want to
No,
do.
no.
And it raises their own heritage, it raises their own culture as well. And it's like, "No, you don't do it. Don't
In
do
the
it."
end, especially
It's
when you think of
not fair.
kids, they're not going to know what their culture was or is meant to be. It's going to
No.
be so confusing and it's so unnecessary. Now, here's one. We're getting very close, and I'm you know me, everybody. I don't do that kind of tease you in and then don't deliver. But just before we get to a massive item on Doctor Who and Woke, um, this is one of Rachel's favorites over the time. I know I've seen her streams, which is Rachel Zegler.
Why is it always the name Rachel?
That's it.
Oh,
So yeah,
I was wondering what you were talking about. Yes, but I've actually covered this on my channel since my channel first started. Actually, Snow White. It was,
it's
I
been
think it was
going
like
on.
one of my first
Yeah.
videos.
But
Yeah,
it's a bit like when you're sent to unconscious bias training. She's been PR'd, hasn't she? Suddenly,
she has. Yeah,
you slagging me off is suddenly your passion. It's your passion.
yeah, she's been
Um,
PR'd. Mm-hmm.
and
For
it's
sure.
awful to see, even in that, because we all know what she really thinks.
Yes, of course, because she's already said it, and that's
Yeah,
the problem.
that's it's the problem. So what an honor! Snow White star responds to the negative social media casting backlash. Too late, Disney. Um, yeah, because it's PR time, isn't it? They're now trying to do the big sell and get the money back.
Yeah.
And of course, what she said this time is Snow White backlash is due to passion for the original movie. We're not always going to agree with everyone.
No.
Or she sounds so magnanimous, but of course, I'll remind everybody what she actually said in the first place. She was talking about that the Prince Charming literally stalks Snow White. Stalks. This is a
Mhm.
fairy story,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
I interpret people's sentiments towards this film as passion, she says now. So she's gone from it's a movie about male stalkers and you know feminism and everything, and she suddenly said, "No, but I understand now. It's your passion."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
What a turnaround.
well, yeah, we were talking about me getting sectioned. I tell you what, she's suddenly had a conversion.
Yeah. 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 She's definitely had PR training. You can't flip it on its head and do a complete 180. I mean, Disney tried to do as much damage control as they possibly could, because she went out and she said all of those things, and then people at first didn't really pay attention, and then we went into the lockdowns, and then that's when things no, was it the lockdowns or was it they went on strike? I think it might have been because of the actors' strike, actually, and then suddenly all of these, quotes that she had said resurfaced, and it really damaged the film. I mean, the film was already questionable anyway, because we had what Peter Dinklage had said
Yeah.
about the dwarves living in
Yeah.
a cave, and the fact that they'd been casting a part Latina to come in and do this role. So that had already caused some controversy, and then she went and said of all those things, and they resurfaced during the strike. And yeah, it didn't go down well. So then what they tried to do was they tried to damage control it by getting her to sit down with Variety. I don't know if this is the same one, but she sat down with Variety and the singer-actress Halle Bailey, who played
Mm.
Ariel,
Mm.
who did get some backlash for being cast as Ariel, but she was like, "Hey, you know what? I'm cool with that," and she was pretty dignified about it. And they tried to damage control it in that way. It didn't work. And so they tried various other things and it just didn't work. And then she just kept saying things. She said those things about Trump, and they went, take it back. Apologize for that. And and so then they've obviously got PR involved. It's very clear because
But getting,
we know
but
where
get,
she stands with this film. She didn't like it.
no, and getting PR involved is just like Disney dumping DEI now just because President Trump's come in. Did they
Yeah.
have conviction or not?
Yeah.
What's it?
The thing is, they should have probably seen the red flags very early on that they were going to need PR involved, because she
Mm.
did West Side Story and she said something. I can't remember what it was that she said, but she was on an interview and there was something that came up, and it was something about talking the language, and she goes, "Why? Does it matter? We are doing this, but does it matter?" And she was pretty
Mm.
not approachable. And then she stomped and she kicked her feet because she was not invited to the Oscars. West Side Story had been nominated for an Oscar, I believe. She wasn't directly nominated, so she wasn't invited. Next thing we know, she gets invited because she cried about it.
Oh, well, yeah, there's
Yeah,
feminism for you. You turn the tears on and get what you want. I mean,
yeah.
well done. Go, girl.
So
Feminism.
yeah, so they should have had their alarm bells on pretty early on, but they didn't, and it came to bite them in the backside.
But this is it. It's actors opening their blooming gobs. Jodie Whittaker, we're going to do a bit later. David Tennant opening his gob.
Yep.
Shooty Gatwa opening his gob. I have to say that just get your day job a bit better. Who said you had to be political? I couldn't be political in
No,
my job. Who said
no,
you have to be
no.
political because you're an actor?
If you're watching the promotions for Snow White, I don't know if you've seen any of them just recently, but they're
Just bits.
mostly focusing on Gal Gadot, because Gal hasn't really said anything bad about the film.
Oh,
She's literally been plugging it as if
yeah.
it was the most amazing thing to say these lines like magic mirror on the wall. She's like, "I get to say this. This is brilliant. I am the evil queen." And do you know what? Do you know what? No one's batted an eyelid at the fact that she is not actually American.
Mm.
Or from, where is Snow White actually set? Germany, isn't it? Is it Germany?
Yeah, because it's like one of the Grimm's
Yeah,
fairy
yeah.
stories, isn't it?
So she's not American, she's not from Germany, but she's upheld herself with decorum, you know, despite some people trying to attempt to boycott it because of where she's from.
Well,
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, there you go. That was me trying to condense a lot of the woke stuff. Now I have promised the Doctor Who component, our Doctor Who special on it. So here we go. Now, just to kind of set up, this is teeing it up. I'm not going to do another Doctor Who's axed or not. I mean, we've all heard them. So, it all started, as you know, I was about to pack for Spain, and the Sun article decided to say this.
Oh,
Then
yeah,
the
you swung
BBC,
in on this one, didn't you?
yeah, and then the BBC
Don't blame me.
denied it. So of course, there you go. And as you know, everybody's discussed it in fandom and streamed about it. And then the press have really moved in on this. It's as if the doors have opened. And so as they've opened, the critiques are coming. And in nearly every critique, they use the word woke. And just an opening gambit. So if you see this one, for example, from the Daily Mail, cringe-making woke storylines see viewers plummet. How Disney is set to pull the plug. Then, this is just to start us off. You've got, Talk TV, what the hell's going on with this series? It's open to ridicule. You then get discussions in Deadline and other online organizations where they're talking about the Disney deal and is it there? And if you look on the right-hand side, it just says, though it's unclear whether that extends to the woke themes and casting, which is indeed believed to have hurt viewership. So everybody suddenly is moving in on this woke element.
Yeah. I think people are starting to realize it's a problem.
Yeah. And I haven't even got to the article yet, because as I said to people, it's not just for us to waffle on about it. I mean, you can see where in just 1 week in Spain, Sun article, and then it opens up all this. So whether Doctor Who's going to be axed or not is by the by. But clearly, there's a lot of the media who are now jumping on and saying, well, it wasn't that good anyway, was it? And it's gone a bit woke. And all of a sudden, they think they've got a chance to have a dig.
Yeah.
So we've got examples of this here. Doctor Who faces the axe while Time Lord Ncuti Gatwa was on the verge of quitting amid a drop in ratings over fan fury at woke storylines.
I think he has quit.
I think so too. I know you've said,
I know it's just a rumor and to treat it as such, but I have suspicion to think that he has quit.
Yeah, he can't hang around. Jobbing actors, whether you're successful or not, you need to keep going.
You've got to move on. There's no point in waiting.
Well,
I don't blame him.
But you're either in or you're out, and he can't be. Well, I'm the Doctor Who actor waiting. That's not popular. You need to be seen on the TV or in the theatre. You have to be. You
need to be doing something.
Yeah.
It's hardly surprising that he went and done Importance of Being Earnest.
Yeah.
There's no point in waiting.
But it's making sense that RTD is doing the Channel 4 show because season 3 is not happening yet.
Yeah.
Ncuti, therefore, is not going to be writing a career drama, so he needs to be doing something else. So something is happening. Yes, it may not be axed, but there may be a rest period. There may be a pause that goes on for years.
For sure.
Anyway, so here we go. Doctor Who faces axe while lead actor is on the verge. And then, of course, we get people like Sulu from Star Trek joining in. BBC shuts down reports that they're cancelling Doctor Who due to woke storylines. Nice try, snowflakes, he says.
I thought he'd left X.
Well, they can't help themselves, but everybody's diving in on this, and this is when I get really uncomfortable with Doctor Who, with its storylines and with it being perceived as woke or not, because it becomes a laughing stock.
Yeah,
and then it is diluted, and it goes on. BBC kill off Doctor Who with woke, says Dan Wootton, who was he was a TV critic before. And then the one I'm going to come to, Rachel, is the one on the left. Doctor Who needs to be woke, and there's a reason every sci-fan should agree.
I've covered that article.
Yeah.
That's the Radio Times, isn't it?
Yeah. Doctor Who certainly has its problems, but wokeness isn't one of them. Go on and give us your first opening gambit again of what you said, because we'll be looking at some of the language in a moment. But
oh, good grief, that was an awful article.
Yeah.
It was very it was a very difficult read. They went off the basis. She went off the basis of the very simple definition with the old definition of woke. And I think, that was a mistake to write the article that way. It's definitely woke, for sure. What they're doing is they're pummeling in story into their storylines, things that don't necessarily fit in there for the sake of just for the sake of doing it, I think. It's like the pronouns. You sat there watching, you're absolutely fine in the Star Beast, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is all right. And then suddenly, oh, are you just assuming the meets pronouns? Well, where did that come from? Completely left field.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. If you don't like it, jog on.
Well, as Jeremy says, there was an article in the Metro. I covered it on the By-Generate show on Wednesday, Jeremy, but I also have a slide tonight from it because, yes, I know. The thing is, the Sun article started these floodgates, like I said, and then I thought, Rachel, the Radio Times article was a kickback, which is everybody, all those terrible people, YouTubers and everything, we nasty people who are moving in on this oh, Doctor Who might be cancelled or axed or arrested for a period.
It's so ironic because it was calling us lazy and things like that, just by jumping to it and saying that it was woke. But when you actually look at the writing itself, even more so during Shooty's era than compared to Jodie's, it was extremely lazy.
Yeah. And so, this is why I've come to this, which is the defense of Doctor Who, and us lot should shut up talking about it either being cancelled or anything, is because it's so important. Well, we might just dissect that for a few minutes, actually.
You can recognise the social injustices, but you just got to entertain, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And integrate it naturally, if you're going to do it.
This is if people haven't seen it on Rachel's, and of course, it does the rounds, doesn't it? But here we go.
This one certainly did.
Sci-fi, after all, has a responsibility to hold a mirror up to society. Well, I've got no problem with that, because sci-fi notoriously does. To comment on it and to help us see things from a different viewpoint. The magic of sci-fi is being able to escape our lives for a little bit. Now, this is the bit, Rachel, when I'm going, well, what? Yeah. By doing a soap opera? Sci-fi, if you go to another planet, might give us a start. But I'm sorry, but well, we've been seeing, even Fine Time looked like it was Keele University. I mean, I never felt as though I was on another planet just because there was a slug in the corner. The magic of sci-fi is being able to escape our lives for a little bit and be immersed in another world, another time, or another civilization. But RTD keeps putting us back on blooming Earth.
Well, you said soap opera, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the things that I actually said, that, you recognize your social injustices and you do your sort of that stompy messaging ground in soap opera.
Yeah.
That where it's not necessarily integrated naturally into the storyline, because the whole point of soap opera is the representation of daily life.
Yeah.
It is there to be woke. No, not woke. You know what I mean? It is there. That's its purpose.
And it's not escapism, because soap opera is almost the opposite. It's actually it's shown us a mirror on the society we live in now.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Whereas sci-fi, it is a mirror to society, but it's more of a hypothesis. It's more of a what if. And I think here, as you said, the Radio Times article is badly written because it's lazy writing in itself. The magic of sci-fi is being able to escape our lives. So Starbeast and having a 15-year-old trans person talking about pronouns is not escaping this world at all.
No, it's not.
Rogue doing Bridgerton and actually having two fellas passion on each other. How's that well, we're just getting bogged down in EastEnders plots here. And I remember, I'm not saying we can't represent modern society, because soaps do it so well and actually better. Sci-fi does the clever question, the clever thought process, and just showing two men kissing doesn't mean we've moved on in society. I mean,
no,
it's so passé that. I mean, how many shows do you see that happening?
Yeah, been done.
Yeah, and in doing that, we can take a look back at our own world and our own society and culture in a new light. What new light? We get told that dead naming is bad. We just get told what not to say and how to say. Having the Doctor actor told off by a trans actress saying you can't use that pronoun to an alien. How is that giving us a new light?
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't give us a new light. It's just policing language again, isn't it?
Yes, it's it's lecturing us and saying this is how you do it, you oldies. I mean, I hate that Starbeast. And the grandma said to Donna Noble, "Is this how I should talk to my granddaughter, so grandson?"
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's making the oldies look as though there's something wrong with them when they're probably going, "Oh my God, the language has changed so much. I just don't know what to say anymore."
Do you know, weirdly, that was one of my favorite scenes, even though it was pointless. It was one of my favorite scenes, but I really do think that Jacqueline King in that episode was brilliant. Actually, I thought she was very good.
It was the most realistic bit because it was the older generation, or a lot of us
I
in
think
the
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
saying, what do we say? The trouble is, then the next bit is, well, you don't say that and you don't say that, and you think, oh, you know.
True.
So yes, so this is the kickback to all those terrible people almost being gleeful that Doctor Who might be going off after the Sun article, and then this is the defense of Doctor Who. The idea of being woke has evolved in recent years. Oh, here's patronizing time, and now has a particularly negative connotation, or too right, often used to refer to people as oversensitive about political and social issues. But at its base level, being woke refers to the idea of being aware and attentive to important issues, especially social and racial injustice. Do you know, Rachel, I get sick of this. As an English teacher, I know how many words change all the time, like gay, for example. We were saying in our detox today, you know, the Flintstones, we'll have a gay old time. It didn't mean I was going to see a cartoon animation of Queer as Folk, did it?
No, it
Um,
didn't.
and that definition was correct, but most people I know out there don't say woke and think that anymore. They mean a negative connotation.
Yeah. No, they do. They do. You're absolutely right. For those of you who don't know, gay used to mean happy. That's
Oh,
what it was.
I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, the meaning, the definition of the word woke has changed. It
yeah.
used to mean that, but it now encompasses
Oh,
so much more.
I would have thought if the Oxford English Dictionary did a proper survey, which they do once a year because they have the most popular words and all that stuff. I used to do it in classes. They will probably say that the woke definition has actually changed in mainstream
They
parlance,
will. I'm
and
sure they
therefore
will.
and therefore it has changed. And so when these people start saying you're using the woke word wrong, no. I am using it for the customers out there as a shortcut because I don't want to do an English lesson on a stream. And when I say woke, I know that most people know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's called discourse. So that's why I've put an X next to it because I disagree with that. Radio Times, you're completely wrong. Stop telling us how to be English teachers because you
No,
got it wrong.
that's
You're
what
out
it
of
used to
date.
mean. Not
Yes.
anymore.
History. Anthony Parkinson. EastEnders did gay characters 40 years ago. Oh, I remember
Yeah.
Colin. Yeah, Colin and Barry. Someone should let RTD know, as he seems to be. Well, does RTD still think he's a pioneer? I mean,
He must do.
you know,
He must do because
I'm
he.
going to do. Rachel, I've got an idea for a queer drama set in Manchester. It's so on point.
What
Oh,
is it? Queer as folk. Tiptoe.
yeah, Queer as Folk 10. It's never been done since last week.
No, last week was Queer as Folk 9.
Oh, that was so last week.
Oh.
Over the overseer, I'm so sick of explaining the current definition of woke, aren't we all? So I have my own
Yeah.
summary in my notes on my phone to paste as and when. Oh my God. Aren't we stroppy devils?
Maybe when I write my scripts now for my channel, maybe when I write them, which I do, and I have to do the definition of the word woke, I'm just gonna have a big copy and paste bit and just go
Yeah.
like that. That's a brilliant idea.
This is what we need to do, I know. Well,
Instead of rewriting it every time.
yeah, because we always have to defend ourselves because for some reason we're not on the right side of stuff, apparently.
No, apparently not.
So yes, now when it comes to the next part of this article, looking at the definition, it's not exactly groundbreaking to argue that Doctor Who has always been woke. You see, this is it. They take the old definition, which, as we have agreed, has changed, and now they're saying, and therefore Doctor Who has always been woke.
No, it hasn't.
It's not.
It's not. It's progressive.
Oh, and then
woke.
Rachel, from its very inception, the show has always depicted the Doctor fighting against tyranny and oppression. Yeah, and yeah. What?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's woke. It just means it's got storylines. So they've gone on about LGBT issues and all the rest of it, and I'm starting to yawn a bit. And then they list some novels and some ideas where, how can you be anti Doctor Who being woke? Because look at these Brave New World woke. No, I wouldn't have called Brave New World woke. Star Trek and Star Wars woke, and for God, Black Mirror, Severance woke. but we don't hear any other sci-fi franchises being criticised for being woke as much as
Excuse me, Star Trek and Star Wars, in particular, Star Wars gets criticized all
yeah,
the time.
yeah. Star Trek
I actually think Star Wars gets criticized more than Doctor Who.
probably, and Star Trek
Mm.
Discovery. I always take the mick out of
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah.
I'm thinking, I always joke about them running away from some issue, and then they start saying, I think you've emotionally grown, and I'm very proud of you. And you're going, thank you very much. And there's lasers going past them, and I'm going, this is pathetic. It's a bit like you do the EastEnders calf moment, but you have lasers behind you. They try and blur it all because they're obsessed with doing soap opera because they only want to talk about the world out there, and none of them have a clever idea. And I'm sorry, when they pretend they're writing sci-fi, they're writing naff stuff. So the argument is incorrect. The writer has given us an old definition to defend Doctor Who,
Yeah.
and has then actually started saying, look at all these other franchises, they do woke and nobody criticizes them.
But they
Wrong
do.
again.
That's wrong. Yeah.
Wokeness is an easy excuse for the times that Doctor Who is sloppily written.
No, because
Well,
you don't say it lightly. I never used to say it until like fairly recently, actually. I think sort of at the turn of when they were sort of introducing Jodie Whittaker. I was like, here we go.
yeah,
Even though I gave her a chance, I was like,
I
so
remember the trailer for before she started, and it was all very it's hard to describe, but the music was very light female and there were lots of pink hues. And I thought, whoa, they really are going very heavy on this femininity. And then I thought, what are you going to do with all the lads who watch this? Because it is a bit weird. It's a hell of a jump to go from Capaldi or Matt Smith or David Tennant being very sexual to suddenly going, ooh, and all this stuff. And
yeah.
I wondered what the hell they were doing.
But, recognizing the social injustice. The thing is, like, we just want good stories. That's really what we want. I can watch a lot of what see the classic, and maybe sometimes the message in the story is so well woven in that it goes completely over my head, but that's okay. It doesn't matter.
The thing is,
I didn't know for a long time the Daleks meant Nazis.
yeah.
For a long time.
You see, I was lucky because I was obviously introduced. I'm older, aren't I? And I was at Genesis of the Daleks. Obviously, was my big proper introduction. I'd seen the Daleks, but to see them from the beginning, although I wasn't aware too much about Second World War when I was 6, you got a vibe that it was very evil and nasty, and it all made sense after that. So yeah, no, I just maybe had a better timing, It certainly won't stop. They're talking about the Disney deal. Doctor Who won't stop though because Gatwa was skirting one scene. I mean, honestly, they are dumbing down our argument here now. You see, they can get so blooming flippant, can't they, Rachel? We are criticising Doctor Who season 1 because Gatwa wore a skirt in one scene. I think it's more a problem than that. Or because the Doctor kissed a man. Well, actually, being a man who's gay, I have no problem with that per se. My problem is the Doctor was never gay. That's the problem.
I always saw the Doctor as asexual.
Yeah. And the other thing was, I think when we both did this review, the biggest thing, let's be honest, about Rogue was he just left his young companion high and dry. So whether he was kissing a man, a woman, or Alpha Centauri, he couldn't give a toss about another human being.
It was something that was completely out of character for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I think I mentioned this in my upcoming video for Sunday. I need to record it. I've written the script. I think I do mention it though.
Yeah. Well, it's just so and so our argument is now, please respect us, and then suddenly they do our argument down as if all we're bothered about is a man wearing a skirt and kissing another man, as if we've never seen it before. I mean, we're bigger than that.
I'd rather Shooty have one set costume. If he wanted to wear a kilt, great, do it if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, there'll be some issue with some people. Sorry, there'll be some people who have an issue with him wearing a kilt, a skirt, but
I know, because what's often condemned as Doctor Who's biggest failing is actually its biggest strength. Didn't you know that, Rachel?
No, I didn't.
reflecting our culture back at us and being so progressive and inclusive. That's its greatest strength.
Wow, I'm so informed.
I mean, that's what EastEnders, Emmerdale, Coronation Street do. Why does Doctor Who also need to do it? That's what Queer as Folk does. That's what that queer drama is going to do. Why does Doctor Who have to replicate another show and yet spend more money? Because I'm sure our episodes are more expensive than Coronation Street.
It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to.
If you want to fight the fight, RTD, go and write Coronation Street and
Yeah.
spend less money because you've got your cobbled street, and just go into the cabin and buy some sweets and say, hey, you're a bit of a
Exactly. And
misogynist.
filming is always so much quicker because they have that static cam, pan and camera done in a few takes.
Exactly. Instead of having the big LED screen and doing some hocus pocus about standing on a landmine and being anti this. And do you know what, RTD? You're wasting the Disney budget on just doing EastEnders plots.
Yeah, you're writing EastEnders for them.
And yet EastEnders are doing it better.
Yeah, apparently Angie Watts came back.
Mrs. Flood, she came back as a
Mrs.
ghost.
Flood, she came back as a ghost.
Oh yeah, so isn't it funny if she came back in Doctor Who as Angie Watts?
Who's she? Oh, darling, I'm Angie.
How you doing, Shooty love?
How you doing?
Are you Shooty? Do you fancy my Phil Mitchell?
Yeah.
But if it does happen, those expecting to see wokeness erased from our screens will be in for a very rude awakening indeed. All right. You know, and I love them. When their argument is weak, they suddenly say, and if you think it's all over and you're going to win the argument and woke's going to die just because Doctor Who dies, you've got another thing coming because wokeness is around for good. And you're going, oh, what is this?
Hello. That's very rude.
Oh, well, yeah. It's because we're wrong, Rachel. Did you know that?
Yeah, we're wrong. We're lazy as well, Brendan,
Yes,
according
yes.
to this article.
And we're uninformed. That's
yeah.
I was told all week I was uninformed, quoting the Sun and the BBC and all the other places. I'm uninformed.
The question is, have you learned anything from this article?
I've learned that I should still be English teaching because some people need it. All I've learned is I am not worthy and I have sinned. I feel bad about myself.
Yeah.
All them streams when I've said stuff about woke, I feel bad now.
I feel awful too.
Does everybody want to do a collective? I mean, I was brought up a Catholic. Should we all do a collective confession now? I mean, I feel as though we should just all have a moment, everybody, and all list our sins. And maybe by the end of this stream, we can feel absolved and maybe feel as good as this person.
True. My crown was very well deserved, I think.
Well, the queen of the woke. I mean, you're the queen of being sensitive. You're the queen of being aware. Oh, God, you're so on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, God. The BBC want Doctor Who to continue, says Garbage. The fans want it cancelled. How times have changed. And yeah, that I know it was...
Yes, irony.
There were lots of streams discussing this yesterday. We mentioned it in the detox today. It is different this time. I know I'm quoting. It is. No Doctor in Distress. No campaign. I don't think the press will ask for Doctor Who to come back at the moment. The press are too busy laughing at Doctor Who.
Nah.
I think the mainstream British public are going, oh, is it still on? You know, I really don't think there's, you know, the Sun today probably did try and antagonize by saying that the Christmas special's being cancelled when there never was going to be one.
No, I'd never heard any head or tail about it. So they would have announced it by now if there was going to be one.
And I don't think it was planned because if you add the 26 episodes up, we're halfway through. There's 13 to go, 5 plus 8.
And the thing is, RTD is on this tiptoe thing, and he's not only writing it, he's producing it as well. So he'll be involved right to the end.
Yes.
And we don't know how long that's going to obviously take them. Don't know what the projections are yet for the filming, but he'll be involved.
Yeah, because he'll show run that because, as I've always said, he can only do one project at a time. And that's not a criticism.
Well, of course,
yeah. The other thing
you don't know what contract he's signed either for this.
But you can see, Rachel, why it is definitely a hiatus because
it's definitely going to be.
He said I mean, we were streaming ages ago, one of our Sunday night sessions, when I had one of those quotations from RTD up, and he said he was writing the episodes for season 3. Now that makes sense. It's a hell of a rush, but if he's written some episodes for season 3, then Shooty probably does disappear. Then he goes and does his queer drama Tiptoe, and then we've got a year or two, and then he's got his episodes ready to be kind of
Yeah.
scheduled in.
If they do bring it back, and that's a very big if, then I reckon we're looking at least 18 months to 2 years before the next one comes along, the next series.
Yes. And that's when Doctor Who starts to die, because it died in the 80s because the schedules kept getting bust.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it
they were
Who
doing
or is it
something
not?
really weird, weren't they? They were scheduling a lot of Collins episodes, stories against other stuff and moving it around, and it was
Yeah.
very weird.
And you see, I mean, I've read this a few times, and I was going to mention it on Sunday, but and sometimes I'm thinking, oh, don't be triggered, Brendan. But in the latest Doctor Who magazine, which, as John Daly says, turns more into a propaganda machine all the blooming time, because it's coming out of the TARDIS time, and it talks about Susan Foreman being maybe neurodivergent or possibly lesbian, and it
Sorry, I'm gonna have to go buy that
You're
now.
gonna have to. But the other thing is, as I said, you give them an inch and they
No!
take a mile. So suddenly, that little joke, you lot, stop getting so your knickers in a twist about Isaac Newton and the David Tennant doctor saying he fancied him.
Sorry,
It,
I'm not laughing at people of, like, who are, like,
no,
neurodivergent or anything like that. I just think that's reading too much into something. That's ridiculous.
because Rachel, you give them an inch, so that little bit in Wild Blue Yonder suddenly becomes canon. Suddenly, that little joke in Church and Ruby Road about a hot summer with Houdini, canon. Suddenly, you get to hear that the Doctor Yaz we never had a lesbian moment, but it definitely was lesbian. The moment with Stones of Blood, Vivian Faye. Suddenly, that was a lesbian. Well, it could be read that
Mhm.
like that, but it wasn't in the script.
The thing is, did they actually ask Carol Ann Ford about that? Because she was the one who played the character, so therefore she knows it best.
But this is more than revisionism. This is
Mm,
just kind of
she did.
ambushing something and making it completely different. It
Mm,
was called an unearthly child. We know why, because she was alien, and she was a
well,
fifth.
yeah,
She
that
seemed 15, but she wasn't 15.
oh,
And so she did all this kind of strange acting to be different. But that didn't mean she was neurodivergent,
no.
which
No,
is
it didn't. No.
and it
I
doesn't
never
mean she
got that
was.
impression, and I swear she married a man called David,
Yeah.
and
And
that's why her
remember,
grandfather left her that.
and that whole idea about being unearthly, therefore, is she maybe closeted? And you're going, no.
No, that's just
And
reading too much into it.
but then these people are given articles to write and actually impose this on a text. It's not there. And
No,
it's not
it's not.
sci-fi. That's just EastEnders again.
No. No, if you wanna do it, if you really wanna do it, um, then do it in the modern day stuff,
Rachel, it's a bit like one of
but,
those soaps. Have you
uh,
ever watched a
don't
soap?
ruin the show for that.
Have you ever watched a soaps, Rachel, when a
Maybe 1
character
or 2.
grows up? Yeah, a character grows up, and as you know, they're always coming up with plot lines all the time, and then suddenly a character who seemed to be dating this lass disappears, comes back, and he's gay or something
Yeah.
like that, and you're going, "Oh, blooming hell, that's a hell of a turn." But in soap, you can do it. Well,
Yes.
now in Doctor Who, you can do it. Susan Foreman wasn't an alien; she was a closet all the time.
Then you'll have to bring her back and no, don't do it, actually. I'm not gonna say that. I'll just be writing it for them. No, no, we're not
You
going there.
see, this is the other thing that I get peeved about, Rachel, and you hear people say it more and more. Nissa and Tegan as a gay couple.
No, Nissa
No.
and Tegan were friends,
Yeah.
and I always assumed that Tegan was a lot older as well.
Yeah. And I have to say, what's happens to girlfriends and all the rest of it? They were sharing a bedroom because there were two female characters, and Adric has his own room. That was basically, mind you, J&T, we shouldn't have seen the bedrooms. I still think that was a mistake to start showing us domestics in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember as a kid thinking, get on with the story, get on with the story. I don't want to know that Nissa has a little lab in the corner. And
I don't mind I don't mind seeing the labyrinths of the TARDIS so much, but yeah, it didn't need to you know, what's the word for it? Show the bedrooms.
it's just that Rachael, like I said, you give them an inch and they then take a mile and completely change everything by
Yeah.
saying that one word there, there you go. Nissa and Tegan never showed any lesbian inclinations in any shape or form, but now you'll get quite a lot of people of a certain niche saying, well, they are. They obviously are. They so obviously are not.
No, they're not.
No.
No. And if you take Big Finish as canon, they're definitely not.
But this is what I mean, Rachael. But if we say this loudly enough as we are tonight, we're phobes. We're deniers of the truth.
Oh, Brendan, we're so shameful.
You are. You want me sectioned?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she's evil. She's evil, everybody. She's trying to get the sense for you taken down. She's I foiled
Woman
your
power.
way. Yes, I foiled you.
Yeah, you busted me. You
So,
totally busted me.
oh God, Rachel. So this continues. The thing is, the argument that wokeness has ruined Doctor Who is not only predictable, boring, and lazy. It's nonsensical. Is it?
No, because we're well reasoned to actually go in and say what we want about it. And we take all these things, we see all these things, and we take the quotes that actors have said, and what RTD has said is that, look, he's telling you, they're telling you they're going to be doing this. They're telling you. So if they're telling you, then duh, it's clearly woke.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I've shown you the BBC and drag queens and and if everybody looks at all the examples I've kind of assembled tonight, I then say, for one of the first times really, I get worried about the BBC thinking that they're doing the right thing by Doctor Who and the kids watching, because you are not where the mainstream are, BBC. And I don't like certain verbs used, and I'm not going to use them on my stream, but it does look like indoctrination to a degree. And that is problematic, because why are we introducing too much sexualization, sexuality, that kind of sleaze factor to a show where Nissa was supposed to be a little teenager? Tegan, seemed to be in her 20s.
Yeah.
Adric was a schoolboy.
Yeah.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
How can we inject all this sex into two school-age ones and the big sister, really, Tegan?
You just can't.
No.
You're putting things into characters that, first of all, were not there.
Nah.
And second of all, you should ask the actors' opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were the ones who played them. And guaranteed they'll say no.
And the last one, everybody, on this element. Didn't you know that Doctor Who has always been progressive and inclusive? Now, I know, because Rachel's done some reviews with me, and never mind her own ones, when quite rightly Rachael will say there were no female actors in that whole story. So, I mean, so inclusive? Not always. I mean, Doctor Who's been ahead of lots of programs, but I know I have been. I'm trying to remember which ones they are. Deadly Assassin, you weren't pleased with in a way, because it's mostly a male cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Great Doctor Who story, but it's not inclusive.
No, it's not.
No.
Great Doctor Who story, not inclusive. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
100%.
So again, Radio Times, no. It's always been progressive and inclusive. Well, actually, I wish I could say Doctor Who was amazing. Not all the time. In fact, the criticism angled against Doctor Who has often shown why we need its inclusivity. Now, this bit, Rachel, I don't know what you thought. I thought, oh, you are really having your cake and eat it. The sexism we saw when Jodie Whittaker was cast shows we need a female doctor. No. The
No.
criticism wasn't because she was a woman per se. It
No.
was because you were changing the character.
Yeah.
The racism, I have not seen racism about Shruti Gatwa.
I've not seen it either.
No, no. So,
I'm
so
not saying there wasn't, but I've not
I'm
seen it.
sure that I'm sure there'll have been some because there's the human race and
Yeah.
everybody's covered, unfortunately. But you see, this is it. The rage now is it's sexism when we're angry about Jodie Whittaker being a doctor. It's nothing to do with canon being broken. If we don't like the 15th Doctor, and I take the mick out of it on all my blooming review shows, that's racist. No, it's not. It's me saying you've completely changed the character. So now I'm silenced and cancelled as an ist because they don't like me criticizing somebody who's got a different coloured skin. I've never said anything and I'm not interested. And of course, a fugitive Dr. Joe Martin does a lot better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this argument is trying to silence us, shut us up, and put us in our place again.
Yeah. It's not going to work, is it? I'm going to carry on. I don't care.
Well, the bottom one there is laughable. I'll just have to say again, I don't know how many times I've had to say I'm gay. The homophobic complaints against the
Wait,
gay. I
you're
know, I'm like me and Bill Potts.
plot twist.
Oh, I tell you what, there's going to be a stream of the puppet. Me and Bill Potts in the TARDIS, looking at each other, going, "No, nah."
It didn't happen.
So me going mad, and I remember one of my streams midday on a Sunday when I went absolutely mad about Rogue, like a lot of us did. But I really, but I'm gay. Maybe I wanted to see more of that. Surely I needed to see that represent. No, I did not. But that doesn't mean I'm homophobic. It just means I don't want my Doctor Who wrecked.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You just want it presented to you as Doctor Who and just be able to enjoy it. You don't need, any of this.
I
Really.
don't want to, I don't want to look, because it wasn't even a romantic story like a soap opera might do very well over many episodes. This was lust.
Did we need a female? Yeah, that was lost. You're absolutely right. Sorry, I've just holding my own thought. Did we need a female doctor? No. Did we need the doctor to have a gay kiss? No. Do we really need the doctor to kiss anyone? No.
Do we need to be bothered about whether the Doctor's black or white? I thought we'd moved on from that.
No.
The Doctor had been white because it started in the 60s and the country looked very different.
Very different to what it is now.
Yeah. I mean, if we're doing this representation DEI bingo, I mean, I think the next Doctor will be Chinese, then the next Doctor, and before you know it, there'll never be another white Doctor again, and then that'll make it look stupid. I just think the whole thing is mad, and I get sick of this. And actually, on one of my streams this week, I think it was the Bigenerates one, everybody wants me to play DEI bingo in the next series. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Or was it Woke bingo? I think it was.
Woke bingo. Okay. What would that entail?
Well, we just make a list before the series comes back. So I've got 6 weeks to do it, where we list all the things we are expecting. So songs, a Eurovision tie-in with the Juno, that there'll be some patronizing stuff about maybe not pronouns, but about trans, about, you make your list.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can do that. We can do that. Now, Rachael this was a special request. I mean, Rachel's truthful. She gets on with her streams and works. And we have this lovely arrangement to do on a Friday. But the thing is, she did want to talk about this. I've talked about it a little bit on my 2 shows so far. So I'll let Rachael have first dibs on this one because you don't want to get bored with me. But it's about Jodie. Okay. Good old Jodie. So let me just kind of tee it up for you.
Okay.
Let me get the right page. I've missed out on all the writers and that because we can use them in a minute. But go to Jodie, and here she is. Not that. There you go. Not quite yet. It's lining up. It's going very slowly. There we go. Jodie.
Yeah. So I don't think this was the one that I sent you. Is it the same stuff?
Yeah, it's the same stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the article in the Telegraph. I found that rather intriguing because I saw a lot of well, not a lot, but I saw several sort of streams, I guess you could say, where they were saying, "Oh, she blames everyone. She blames this person. She blames all the boys." And I'm like, but I've read the original article,
Mm.
and the original article doesn't directly quote her saying anything where she blames boys or anything like that. Not directly.
No.
And that to me is a bit of a false representation and a little bit problematic because it could be potentially putting words into her mouth that she may have never said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I was tentative how I thumbnailed it because
Mm.
she says it was a noisy few. Rage is
Yep.
always loud.
Yep.
I assume we can only assume she's talking about fans.
Yeah.
Um, that, but she's actually saying that it's the minority of fans who have been complaining. So
Yes.
in a way, she's not slamming overall fans. She's
No,
just
I
saying,
didn't think she was, and I think that's how a lot of it was taken, that she was slamming all young lads and men for it, but I really didn't get that impression, it's like I'm treading on eggshells a little bit here, because I just didn't get that distinct impression. Like, was she miscast as the Doctor? Absolutely. She shouldn't have played the Doctor, but yeah, it was I was like, I think people needed to read the fuller context of the article because it wasn't a direct quote. It was very clickbait is what I would call it.
yeah. Well,
Clickbait.
unfortunately, this is the world we're in online, isn't it? We
Yeah.
know as YouTubers that some people race sometimes to get a headline straight away.
Yeah.
I can see where the headlines are, but I
Yeah.
can't take the English teacher out of me going, well, that's not quite where she is here.
No.
If I want to get some views, I could go for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
as Garbage says, furious backlash. No, she didn't get that. We was all willing to give her a chance. In the first episode, she was okay. Then we
Yeah,
saw
she
how
was.
cool
Yeah.
she was over the series. She attacked us before she was on screen. Bit like Shooty Gatwa.
A bit like
Going for
Shooty Gatwa. Yeah. I she got like some of the highest viewerships for.
yeah, it was 13 million or
Yeah, I
12 or
mean,
13 million on it.
that's
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal. I think people were definitely intrigued by the idea of a female doctor to actually come in and watch it,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's what it was, and then obviously it tapered off when the writing really did not actually give her anything, like, amazing to do.
No.
Yeah.
My problem, and I wondered if you would have picked up on this more, was the second paragraph here, Rachel, where we've talked about Colin Baker
Mm.
before, but she said if Peter Capaldi hadn't been good as the Doctor, it would only have reflected on him. Because obviously, as a bloke, the blokes never get the blame, is I
Yeah.
suppose what she's implying.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt that if I wasn't very good at this, I'd have mucked it up for other actors. I think it's
Yes.
completely unacceptable. Now, okay, it's the way to be in this world is to play the victim. Colin Baker was clearly blamed by Michael Grade and everybody for the hiatus and the disaster in the 80s, wasn't he?
Mm.
Unfairly.
Unfairly, yes. Yes. And, like, I'll just say there's always something that every single doctor can do better, alright? I actually think that, and I think most actors will agree with that. Um, but yeah, it was unfair to blame Colin, sack him for that. Absolutely redonkulous. This statement, yeah, I did actually want to talk about this statement as well. Like, that observation that she made
Mm,
about, like, Peter Capaldi, that's actually a very fair observation, I think. It would have reflected on him. She's absolutely right in that sense. Um, and I wondered if by this statement she says, whereas I felt that if I wasn't very good at this, I've effed it up for other actors.
mm,
So by that she means other women coming
mm.
in to do this role, sorry. And she goes on to say, I think it's completely unacceptable if that was the case, but that was how I felt. So what makes me think that she has said that, I wondered if she had imposter syndrome coming into this role. So she's believing that she's like, she feels like she's a bit of a fraud. It's quite common in the acting industry to actually feel something like that, especially if you're coming in and you're taking over a role that other people have been made famous for or have played on a regular basis. Could be stage, it could be TV, you know. Um you feel like you don't sort of like belong in that role. You don't feel like you're worthy of it, and you don't feel like you can actually do it. And so I wondered if she had a bit of imposter syndrome
Well,
coming into
well,
that
well.
role.
Look, I take what you're saying, but I would say, to be quite honest, get over it, because she.
It's very difficult to get over.
I know, but you have to be so thick-skinned as an actor, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Because
You
there's
do.
reviews and everything, and she took the paycheck, and she took the gravitas of that moment of being the first female doctor. She said yes to the role, and if
Mm.
she's now saying, "Oh, I felt a little bit awkward. I felt a bit out of my depth. I felt this," well,
She
you
also
don't.
she also knew how big of a role it actually was, even though she didn't watch it, she knew. She
Yeah.
knew.
I mean, I personally, I can see Peter Harrington's point here. Sylvester's time, it was split, remember, initially, but warned. You've mentioned Sylvester McCoy. You see, Sylvester McCoy's not my favourite. And I thought he was kind of miscast. I don't think he was a dark doctor. They tried to make him dark, but there's something about his diminutive figure and everything. It didn't work. That's my personal opinion.
Mm.
But I think that's the problem with the Jodie casting. Um, And but you see, some of us, Rachel, and I'm sure you're the same. Sometimes, even if people give you a job, you think, even before you accept it, you're going, I can't see me doing that. I can't. How? Sometimes you
Well,
second guess yourself. But
I
sometimes
got
people don't.
cast in a role that was 20 years too young for me. I went, "You do realise I'm this age?" And they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you do realise. I mean, I'll do it for you if you really want me to, but
Yeah.
you do realise I'm this old." And I felt like I didn't belong in it. It was very bizarre, but they wanted me, so okay, fine,
Well,
whatever.
I remember having a chat with you when I found the quote about, RTD said they interviewed and auditioned about 20 people before shooting, and you went, really? And as Lee Smith says here, isn't this the problem with Jodie Whittaker? There was no audition.
Yeah, I wondered that. That could also be the case. They said that they tried her extensively, didn't they? Though.
Yeah, I think they did some screen testing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that's at most.
And that's different, isn't it? That's just getting it right.
Yeah.
That's
But
that's
the whole point of auditioning someone is to wheedle out the ones that don't fit the character quite well enough.
yeah,
That's the whole point, and then actually find the person who does. When you get called into a casting room, okay, it's a huge honor because there's something that the casting director and the production team see in you that could potentially make that role. And that's how, they wheedle it out. It's not because 'cause you're bad, right? They wanna see you because you've got something.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, and Farsight, and we had some lovely, well, better news about your dad. I won't go to town because I know it'll be a long thing. Sylvester was brilliant, and I saw James say, Duncan, sorry, say the same thing. And yes, I said what
Mm.
I said. It's my truth, but I understand. Let's face it. That you're biased about Sylvester. He's my doctor, and that's good. That's good. And I like meeting Sylvester. I've got no problem with that. It's just he wasn't my doctor. That's it. What's that guy from C to Alpha? Chibnall's a good writer when he's a supervisor. Unsupervised, he's like a kid with ADH on a sugar high.
But that makes you wonder then, you really do need to bring it back to producer and
Yeah,
scripts, don't you?
yeah, totally.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that was what I thought about the Jodie statements, imposter syndrome.
Well,
So,
look, you're a female actress. She
yeah.
goes on about this in this part of the interview. She says, she almost touches on the Peter Davison territory when he talks about boys need a role model in sci-fi, and she goes, it's never been questioned that I had to look up to men. So it was
Mm.
fascinating that for some, we women could not be role models. The doctor is still the doctor, but also I was playing an alien. I'm glad she recognized it was an alien. My gender was not the issue. Oh, yes, it was, because you and Yaz were supposed to be getting off in that double bed. You know,
Which they only did because some fans suggested it.
yeah.
So they pandered to it. It just came out the blue.
I don't know. I don't know what was worse in that era, and there was quite a bit. But I found that moment when did Ace fall, and the TARDIS doors opened, and then she fell onto the double bed that happened to be in the console room.
What happened there? Mm,
Yeah. Now, I know
spooky.
everybody, Planet of the Daleks, there was a bed in the corner. John Pertwee had his coma there, but we've never seen the bed since.
No.
And it wasn't a double bed. That would have been problematic. But yeah, this thing about role models. Now, obviously, I'm a male saying this, so of course, I've been the kid that got the cream. But did you ever feel this, Rachel?
Um, I kind of understand what she means. Um, like she's right by the statement, never been questioned that we have to look up to men.
Yeah.
You know, I had to look up to my dad a lot when I was a child, and then on TV there was a lot of men in heroes roles, so you know there was them to base it from. Um, so I kind of understand what she means.
It,
But in today's world, we have more of that representation.
but the other thing was, Rachel, is when we were talking about skin colors a bit and that earlier, that they're going for simplistic labels when actually you're a woman and I'm a man. I think we're allowed to say that, are we? But the thing is, within that, there's so many different women and so many different men that to seek representation for
Mm.
my version of me, no, you just go for whatever characters on TV. But I
But
don't need to see me.
if you want to get really pedantic, like and put it down to the knuckle, with the representation of who you had to look up to, with regards to something like Doctor Who, the companion is nearly always female. So you would have had
Yeah.
the companion. Um, in
um,
Star Wars, you used to have it was originally Princess Leia, and then of course, they introduced that character like Rey. So eventually over time it obviously had more characters, but with Doctor Who, it was generally a female companion. You didn't need to gender swap. And actually, Peter Davison is right in that respect. They shouldn't have gender swapped the Doctor because, well, the young lads, who would they have to look up to? It was kind of getting into his territory a little bit of the
But
cancellation.
like you said about the companion, isn't it funny? The companion tended to be a human. And so the female represented humanity, whereas I, as a little lad, could argue, well, where was I represented? He's an alien.
Adric.
Um, oh,
Oh, no, you
yeah,
would have been a
yeah.
bit older then, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Sorry.
I found that
I know Adric's not everyone's favorite. I don't mind Adric. Adric's fine, but I know he's not everyone's favorite.
yeah, no,
Turlo.
certainly not mine. Taylor, oh my God. Another school kid.
Sorry. Okay.
No, there was the Gary Lucy in Mark of the Rani. I quite discovered when I
yeah.
was younger. I went, oh, okay, Um, but it wasn't Adric. Oh my God! I was hoping the
Yeah.
Marsh Spiders would finish him off.
And also, with the representation, you've also got, well, I know Rani's a bit difficult, but there was the Rani. Obviously, rights are questionable at the moment for that. Whether or not she's coming back, I don't know. But then you've also got Romana. So
Yeah,
there's no reason why they could have reintroduced Romana. I'm sure they've got the rights to Romana, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Paul Stenterford. There are plenty of female role models from entertainment historically. For example, Ripley, Sarah Connor,
Ah, yeah,
Supergirl.
that's it. I was trying to remember one of the names, and it was Ripley. Yeah,
Ripley, I mean, that's 79 Alien, isn't it? And
that's a
that
long
was
time.
an
But
outstanding sci-fi role model, much better than Princess Leia.
what? Yeah, true. Actually, was it wasn't that did wasn't Gary Oldman in it? Was it Alien? And he had that
Um,
that thing come out of his
John
stomach.
Hurt.
Or was
John
it
Hurt.
John Hurt? Sorry, John
Yeah.
Hurt. Sorry, thinking of the wrong person. He had that thing coming out of his
Yeah.
stomach. Can that is the one image? Was that
That
Alien?
yes. And that was good old Sigourney Weaver
Yeah,
and
I don't
dressed
remember much about Alien except for that bit.
well, she was dressed down. She was in combat. She was all sweaty. It was not a glamorous role.
No, it
Um,
wasn't.
And you had that great moment in Aliens when she says, "Come here, you be," which he gave in Space Babies almost a similar vibe, didn't he?
Interestingly, with Ripley was originally written for a man, but they changed it.
It's isn't it? Yeah.
Have I got that correct? I think I've got that correct. It was written for a man, but they decided to go with Sigourney Weaver. I think I'm correct.
Please tell us, everybody. I know it was Ridley Scott from Hartlepool who directed it, but there you go. The talents of Wayne Cheyenne. Do we need to be represented, though? I've never seen it as that important myself. Whether
Nah, not really.
And of course, my argument, as I'm sure Rachel's, goes deeper than this, which is whether you see a male or female representation on TV, are they working class? Are they from your area? I mean, how far do you go here? It gets silly. I mean, Off Read the Same Pet in the 1980s was on. I didn't feel represented.
Mm.
You know, I mean, come on, they're all scratching their blooming undies. It seemed gross as hell. I was thinking, I'm not like that. You know, it was just mad. Now, the other thing about woke Doctor Who that I was promising is we all know about the writer's choice for this next year. And you know what, Rachel, when you really look at it, it's would you say it's fair to say it's LGBTQ heavy?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that's
I mean, I'm more interested about what it is they can do. But yes, it is for sure. I think Alan Cumming has been confirmed in
yeah,
something to do with Doctor Who recently. I haven't fully read up on what
yeah.
it is, but
Ring a ding, Mr. Ring a ding
oh,
with Sunshine Sally.
all
She sounds like a call girl or something. Sunshine Sally.
right, darling, I'm Sunshine Sally. How are
I know.
you?
Again, it sounds EastEnders. I'm Sunshine Sally. I charge £5. I'm cheap. Honestly. So you've got the Juno Dawson thing. We still don't know. But when you know, Doctor Who being woke is its savior was the Radio Times article. And then, of course, you had, how woke do we go? Because we all know the killer paragraph here from Inua Ellams was that the Doctor's a refugee, don't you know? And, you know, it's all about good immigrants and all the rest of it. And you think, this is killing Doctor Who, actually.
Yeah. I didn't know he was a refugee until Mr. Ellams told me so.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gay,
yeah.
just in case I hadn't told you.
Really? Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
maybe I should go on Instagram and do this going, I just need to tell everybody what you already knew. But no, this is I have to tell my truth. It sounds all Meghan Markle, doesn't it? I have to give you my truth.
I have to share my side of the story.
And because I've not been given any other platform, I'm going to put it in a sci-fi show. No, don't. You know, we've already had
you don't need
refugees, so
to.
Space Babies were refugees.
Oh,
Have we done the refugee story now?
well, I hope so. Oh,
I think
don't tell me he's going to take it back to the first Doctor when the first Doctor runs away and then lands in Totter's yard and
I thought you were going to
he'll get Shooty's Doctor to go back to Totter's yard. So that's what's going to happen.
Oh, Rachel, it could be worse. He could say,
Calling it.
I've got a narrative arc. We're going to go back to Space Babies when they're older. Oh.
Will their mouths still be moving in that really weird way?
Well, can you imagine? It'd be like, why don't you? That you have all these
distorted.
teenagers, these pretentious, precocious teenagers, and they are refugees, remember? And that nasty planet wasn't taking them, so the Doctor might revisit. I can see RTD really going so heavy on this, you know.
But they don't. Why do they have to run with this? It's because it's the talking points. It's their checkbox.
Well, it's
meeting the diversity quota.
It's what makes them authentic, and it's actually what makes them famous because that's all that's left. David Tennant has to do. I'm into trans. I think that you know why. I have to talk about this because he doesn't say I'm an interesting person. We were saying this today in the detox. We were saying you used to have Peter Ustinov on Parkinson. You used to have Anthony Quayle. You used to have some of the top actors who actually had lived and been in the Second World War and done other things. And they had very interesting stories to tell. They'd lived. Now actors seem to have to say, you know, I have a virtue. I have an issue. And you're thinking, you're boring as, you're bland as, and actually that virtue will soon be dumped if something happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I've never heard of this person. That's not me being slightful, but like I say, if I've taught English for blooming 30 years and I've not heard of him, that's a bit of a fascinating one, isn't it? Because he's a poet and everything else. I've been watching Doctor Who since I was 10. It's about a displaced refugee from a war-torn planet who arrives on Earth with a screwdriver. I mean, God, it sounds like a
Sorry.
naff inspector.
He's got to be talking about the Chris Eccleston Doctor there, because the first one didn't even have a screwdriver.
No, well, it sounds like a celestial Inspector Gadget, the way
It
he
does,
talks.
yeah.
Sounds rubbish. Heather, space baby refugees arrived with a load of crap that they were spreading, and I bet it took them a while to assimilate. Nobody wanted to talk to them. They stunk. Yeah. Oh God. So if this is what's saving Doctor Who, this is what's going to push me almost to the exit door, Rachel. And then, did you see this about Christopher Chung?
No.
He's in season 2, don't you know? He plays a character called Cassio, right?
Right.
He was in Slow Rivers or something like that. I've got it.
Okay.
Anyway, Russell Davies has put down nuke the place from orbit. So happy to get Chris on board. He's playing a tough trooper who finds himself.
What does
Oh,
that mean? He's
well.
gay? Oh no.
Do you think it might be soap opera again?
I think Shooty's going to be flirting with him.
So maybe they couldn't get Jonathan Gruff back.
Yeah.
And so they
Maybe.
get Christopher Chung. Because this morning in the detox, everybody was saying he's got big lips. My God.
Yeah, he has got big
He's
lips.
he's
But he's
pouting.
kind of pouting, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh God.
My thin lips look bigger when I pout.
I think you should have a session pouting, Rachel. The Queen of the Walk pouting. Here we go. Remember when I used to have you dancing at the end of the show? There you go. Strike a pose. I could do it. Here you go. So there you go. There's another one. Doctor Who will be saved, not axed, by all this. The DEI selection of writers, a character who's a space trooper who finds himself. Oh, that really interests me. Oh, that so excites me, Rachel.
Not me.
That's like going back to Star Wars and one of those little stormtroopers, and they take their helmet off and they have a cup of tea and they say, "Do you know what? I've always struggled with my masculinity." You think, "Oh wow, what a story!"
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine this selling out the cinema seats. Not
Yeah,
that it's going on in the cinema.
George Lucas.
It's not going on in the cinema, is it?
It better not be. I mean, George Lucas, you missed a trick. You could have had a little stormtrooper who couldn't live with the toxic masculinity of being with all the other stormtroopers. What a story! How space age would that be? How boring! How tedious! How EastEnders! And Luke Skywalker's gay. No.
Really?
With Bill
I
Potts
saw that.
and me.
Wait, Bill Potts is gay? She's a lesbian?
I approached her and she wasn't having any of it. So
Oh, really?
I think that's what happened. Yeah. Well, it was me who made a hole in it. I went bang, clear off then. And that was the end of her. She had to be turned into a Cyberman. Alternative story. Garbage. I don't watch Doctor Who for the guest stars or other actors. Yes.
Same.
Garbage. Don't you dare say something radical like stories. I watch it to be entertained. Why are all these articles keep telling us who is writing the stories and who is in there? I just don't care. I agree. We know too much about backstory and nonsense. The Times finds himself more emotional introspection. It's Star Trek Discovery. As I said, there's a laser behind you. But for a moment you say, Doctor, thank you for making me realize who I am. Thank you, Doctor. And the Doctor cries and goes, oh, well, you know.
You think that's going to be a very teary story for Shooty?
Yeah, it's going to challenge him for once, Rachel.
You know, he didn't cry once in The Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh, a different showrunner, a different director. Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
Weirdly enough, he was better as well.
Maybe the problem is RTD.
Maybe. Shooty was definitely miscast as the Doctor, but I don't think RTD's writing helps.
No, I think he's
definitely
over.
Not.
He's over. Lee Smith, you're asking some very difficult questions here. Why can't we have interesting characters and sci-fi stories? Well, we need a sci-fi story.
Yeah, but Lee, we just need this progressiveness, apparently.
And look, that's progressive. This is why Doctor Who did so well last year, isn't it?
Oh,
The Radio
brilliant.
Times. The Radio Times is right. There you
I
go.
mean, this is amazing. This is exactly what we needed.
I've
Not
asked for it
not
for years.
saving the companion or
No,
anything like that. No, this is what we needed.
no. I always remember that moment when the fourth Doctor, I think we did the Sontaran experiment review the other day, and when he shouted Sarah, it was almost visceral. You could tell that the fourth Doctor was worried sick that Sarah might be dead.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. He didn't cry, he looked
No.
angry. But now we get all this blather. Of course, we've mentioned that today. This is what made Doctor Who so good now. Having an alien comic strip talking about pronouns.
Everything was fine right up until that point.
Yeah. What about Davros? You see, we're so woke nowadays. You need to spring legs. Isn't it sick? I mean, I've just been in Benidorm where nearly everybody's on a motor scooter with 3 pizzas, right? And then the puppets were dying to get on a motor scooter, but Jamie said it might be problematic and somebody might think we're taking the mick. Because I said I want to get the Who pets on a motor scooter, but how is this sensitive that you have a person who can't use their legs, Stavros, and suddenly in the new series he grows legs? It's dead easy, you know, kids. Go to Lewis.
He regenerated. Even though he can't regenerate, but he regenerated.
Yeah. And so every kid who's disabled can say, oh, that might happen to me. No, sorry, kids. That's not.
No. Put the mask back on Julian. Put him back in his, Dalek casing and get him doing what he was very good at doing.
Yeah. Now, John Steed, I'm going to play my now. You see, this is when it gets problematic, when they're starting to mess on. Because, Rachael, this is... That was naughty, John Steed. I fear that the Master will return and fall in love with the Gatwa Doctor.
That's... No. No, I will stand in protest. No.
I'll shit in
very
protest.
Naughty. Very naughty.
Oh,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
All right, Julian Bleach. Okay, as soon as we've got him here on the screen, we might as well talk about him. Right, okay. So, obviously, we saw him as Davros, made up as Davros. Very much acted like Davros. Could compare him quite easily to the classic Davroses as well. Do you think, as soon as they took the makeup off, the mask off, and his, deformed body off and put him back on his legs, do you think his character portrayal actually changed?
I felt as though he was... I think he could have been the twin of Nida. I just suddenly felt as though he'd been somehow diminished. His iconic status was evaporated. He was just another archetypal villain with that kind of semi-Nazi look. You lost what was so distinctive and menacing about Davros. He just became another villain to me. To be honest, Rachael, if you think about some of the James Bond movies, he could have been Inspector.
He could have been.
Give him a cat.
I think if they had done like a full, I don't know, hour, whatever, story with Julian Bleach like this, I wonder how different it would have been. Because obviously Davros has that, I call it the Davros hissy fit, where he goes like that. Would we have still got that? Or would it have not as had as much power as it would have done? You can't have the joke of like, oh, I'm going to turn off your life support system or anything like that anymore, can you? Because that's gone.
But you see, we were saying, weren't we? I remember I was always asking you as the actor, with Shooty saying, clearly you need to zone him down and make him still, and then he acts better.
Yes.
And Davros was stilled in the first place by being confined to that chair. Yes. And suddenly the actor's got more choices now, which is not what you need, because All you needed was that one hand, and him pressing one button could
Yeah,
be life and death.
yeah. And weirdly, in that little shot, he didn't really move, did he?
No.
He was still, like, confined to sort of one space. And I did actually wonder if that was, coming from his original portrayal. He's
Mm.
like, "Well, I did it like this, so I will continue to do it like this, just standing up."
And of
I
course,
felt sorry for him having to do that.
well, here's another example why Doctor Who, according to Radio Times, needs to be woke. We change history. We've mentioned this earlier, so I won't go to town.
Sorry, that's
All,
Isaac Newton, isn't it?
yeah, all agenda pushing, societal pushing outfits.
Yeah, and yet they have no choice but keep going back to one costume. They keep coming back to the brown coat for sure.
Yes, and the orange jumper, which we used on the Hoopet because we could get a dog costume that was the right size.
That's the secret, is it?
That's the secret. Go to a pet shop. Um, um, about 50 hours ago, I think it was John Yulden, I can't remember now, was saying that, what about the Metro article? And of course, yes, the show is tackling socio-political issues in the way it has always done. Not every story. For every Curse of Peladon, you had one that didn't.
Yeah.
It's been home to LGBTQ characters for decades.
Has it though?
Well, LGBTQ hasn't existed for decades.
No.
So that's actually, in a way, a logical mess.
I mean, yeah, but not on the screen. You may have had actors who were LGB, but obviously closeted because obviously of the time period. But yeah.
So yeah, but of course we all know that this person is notorious for how they defend Doctor Who,
Yeah.
and of course Doctor Who needs to be woke, says the Radio Times, and one of the wokest elements in Doctor Who ever was seeing all those different timeless children.
That is the worst storyline ever for Doctor Who.
Didn't you think it was beautiful to see the
No.
United Nations all as the Doctor?
No. I hated it. Sorry, I really hated the Timeless Children.
You see, it's a bit like when you watch ITV adverts. There was a moment when, because you kept seeing all these different versions of the Doctor, I just thought we are just doing DEI tick lists gone mad.
Yes.
And it made me cynical, and it made me kick back on it. So it wasn't a clever move. It made me push back on this.
I was really hoping, really hoping that she had just fallen into some alternate universe and it had gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping, because that was just absolute ridiculous. And Joe Martin as the first Doctor? Nah.
And then one of the earlier kids was a girl. So, of course, was the first Doctor a girl? They were pushing every little thing. And then
I think this whole Timeless Children thing came around because Chibs, as I like to call him, Chibs had an issue with William Hartnell.
How dare he?
It doesn't. He's not a fan of the William Hartnell Doctor, is he?
Well, that's like me saying I
never
don't like
got
the
that
Sylvester McCoy Doctor, but I'm not going to write a script and write the seventh Doctor out of Doctor Who.
Oh no, why would you? I mean,
No.
it's just taking it away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvester, you suck. No, he doesn't suck, by the way.
Yeah.
That's just a joke.
He's a hobbit.
He's a hobbit. Yeah, he's Radagast. Go on.
It just undermined everything about Doctor Who to that point, because the kickback on it was just to say, I mean, you couldn't say, oh, that William Hartnell did the first and Troughton the second and da 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 da. Suddenly, every numbering had gone, and you thought, oh my God, is that Doctor number 7, Doctor 8, number 9? That's greedy from Chris Chibnall to say, I am completely wrecking canon because I just want to impose myself on the program.
Yeah, that was terrible. Big mistake. And RTD coming in and saying, yeah, that happened. Oh, and then he came in with by generation.
Well, RTD's wheeze was, he said he wasn't going to touch Timeless Children straight away because he said I think he could see it was problematic, but he did say the foundling element from the Timeless Children is what gave him the Ruby Sunday storyline. And
Sorry.
yeah, so yeah,
Really?
when yeah,
No wonder it was a lame duck.
exactly. And why, you know, and then when you look at what woman in 2023, 24, Rachel, dresses in a hood like that, as if she's a druid?
I
Y-
no, not no one.
No,
No.
I mean, and I'm not talking about a burqa or anything. She was actually just dressed like some sort of
Hooded.
medieval druid.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
so how is that representing women or women who are struggling with childbirth or something? It was just mad.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So, um, so Rachel, that was the week that was woke. And as everybody's saying in the thread, and Rachel will say it in a minute, the serious point of today is not going to be our stream at all. It's going to be what happened in the White House today, which is
Oh,
so
yeah.
serious. It's shocking. I don't know if World War III will be closer. Europe are going to be in a right panic. I found it was bullying. And while we're talking about inclusivity, sci-fi, and everything, in the real world, whether RTD likes Trump or not, or David Tennant likes Trump, what happened today was a shocker,
Mm.
and is quite dispiriting and upsetting, actually. Um, and I have to kind of put that in the context, because when you watch this, it's so irrelevant and compared to what's just happened over there. Um, ugh.
Yeah, I'm going to have to catch up because that sort of like happened, like just as I got back from work or something, wasn't it? So yeah, I
Yeah,
need to
and
find out what was going on there.
it's not good news for the world. That's
No,
not what we want. And any
I
country that's getting picked on, I mean, I'm sorry, but any parent who sees their child picked on,
yeah,
or if you see a country getting picked on, you don't want them to be rounded on.
no,
It's,
not really.
when I was teaching about bullying, you don't say, well, the bully, you have to, sorry, the one getting picked on, you deserve it.
Mm.
No, you do not deserve it, and neither should you be patronized and hectored. Honestly, I'll be fascinated what you think, Rachel. I thought there was a hectoring of Zelensky as if it was somehow Ukraine's fault that they were invaded. I just could not believe it.
I'll have to watch it and catch up on it.
Well, watch
Mm.
Zelensky's face, because I couldn't have kept my mouth shut and he couldn't. It was a row
Yeah.
because he was getting patronized, and I felt so sorry for every Ukrainian who was willing on a deal, and
Mm.
now they see that apparently America's going bye bye. But it's okay. Zelensky can come back with his tail between his legs, and I think if he says sorry and he does 200 lines of saying I'm sorry, I think Trump will forgive him. That is
Oh,
awful. Oh,
sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just the analogy.
it is awful. It
Yeah.
is awful. Anyway, that's the reality, everybody, and you know it. And people are saying, um, and I know people have got issues about Zelensky. Yeah, it's a country under an awful lot of pressure. And in the
Yes.
Second World War, if America treated us like this, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
awful. We're human, and people are getting picked on
Yeah.
and killed. And I was
Mm.
hoping for better than that. But anyway, everybody, thank you, Rachel, for your time.
Thank
And
you.
gosh, um,
Mm.
we'll do it again. That was
We
the
will.
week that was woke, and I'm going to go and lie down somewhere now, I think.
Well, on Sunday, just at 4 p.m., for everyone who has been wanting this, the Talons of Winterang review will be up.
You're doing the six-parter.
Oh yeah, I've watched it, I've written it, and it's not recorded yet, but it will be up on Sunday. So
Give
if
me
you
a
want a
te-
detox,
give us one teaser, a snippet before you start, which is, come on then, is it a problem showing it now regarding when Cheyenne?
it'd be fine to show it now. I don't think it would have to be a problem, but obviously there'll be people who have issues with it. But I don't see the issue with showing it now.
No, I think it's an outstanding story,
Mm,
outstanding characters, and
yeah,
it's a four-parter with a two-parter at the end. It's brilliant.
yeah.
And And I didn't care about the rat the first time round. I didn't. Everybody, please like and subscribe. There's 2 channels beaming now. Like and subscribe to us both and see us again. And obviously, I want to remind everybody, as Rachel's Sunday at 4, Sunday at 6, we're live and we'll go from there. But thank you, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Brendan. Thank you, chat.
See you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.